Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. Not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade, sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail, kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. Is a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Meshegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proset, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello. Hello, my friends. Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Lunchtime is the best with me, isn't it? How's everybody doing? Today is Friday, January 17th, 2025. And the first month of 2025 is more than halfway over. It's hard to believe, but here we are. Here we are. And in what I'm going to call a distraction stream today, we're going to get back to the Baldoni and lively drama that does not seem to want to end with either one of them. So much horror is still going on in California, and sometimes we just need to distract ourselves from the really horrible, awful, no good, very bad things and talk about something that's a bit of a distraction. And this is the prime distraction today, and I have no skin in this game at all. I'm going to be like Switzerland. Well, at least for like 5 minutes until I figure out who I like better or whose side I want to be on. I'm Switzerland. I have no stake in this. It's ridiculous. Really, I think this would have been far better, just sort of settled behind closed doors. But here we are. Here we are. This is like the fifth action. Everyone go grab your florals and come back. I did. Grabbed my florals, got my iced coffee. We're doing it today. We're doing it. And in the ring light, I notice I need my roots done. So there's that. A little gray going on here. What are we going to do? Right. Forever. X Eniel says, honestly, I dislike both of them. I know. I think this is something that should have been settled, but whatever. We're here for it. We're going to go over it. Today, we're going to hear Justin's side of the story because I was accused of, being too nice to Blake. When we covered Blake Lively's, the first thing that was filed was her complaint with the California Civil Rights Department, the CCRD, which is not a lawsuit. It's an administrative filing. In California, you need a right to sue letter in order to sue in court for such things as sexual harassment, employment discrimination, etc. So that's the first step in California. Then after that, we covered Stephanie Jones's lawsuit. Stephanie Jones was the PR person for Justin Baldoni, and she may or may not have leaked text messages to Blake Lively to assist her in her campaign against Justin. And she may have had some sour grapes, Stephanie Jones, because Jen Abel, who was her right hand, who I think ran her LA office, left, started her own firm, took Justin with her as a client and tried to get other clients to come with her. And it's all kinds of allegations of contractual violations in the Stephanie Jones against Jen Nathan and Melisa. I think she sued all of them too. Baldoni, she sued them all. And she sued in New York State Court. And then on New Year's Eve, not to be outdone, Justin Baldoni sued the New York Times. He sued the New York Times for such things as libel, false light, breach of implied contract. We haven't been over that lawsuit because there's just so many lawsuits, so little time. And that was filed in LA Superior Court. That is also state court. And then Blake sued Justin in New York, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's federal court. I looked in my downloads. I don't know that I've downloaded that. But that's in federal court. And now Baldoni has sued Blake and Ryan and Leslie Sloan and Vision PR, who are the PR people for, I think, Blake and Ryan. Leslie Sloan's been in the business for decades and decades and decades. And he has brought this in federal court in New York. So I guess we have 2 federal New York cases. Whether or not they'll be consolidated at some point remains to be, obviously we're right in the beginning of this. So if this goes to trial, I can't wait to go sit in a federal New York City courtroom and watch this. It's going to be, it might be better than Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. It might be. We'll see. So in Justin's complaint that was filed yesterday, just yesterday, I was going to do it. I was going to do this yesterday, but I saw some other people doing it. And also I wanted to read the whole entire 179-page complaint. I didn't want to just get on here and talk about it without having read it. I didn't want to report from other articles and other coverage because I like to do my own coverage and we like to look at court documents here. That's what we do. That's what we do. So as we always say, there's always at least 3 sides to every story, right? His side, her side, the truth is somewhere in between, maybe. Who's got more to lose here? Who's got more money? I think at the outset, it's important to point out that the It Ends With Us movie, according to IMDb Pro, and I know you guys like the receipts, so I'm going to just pull up the receipts for you here. It Ends With Us cost, I think they had a budget of $25 million. And so far, the worldwide gross is $350 million. So you know what? Justin made a lot of money on this case, on this movie. And essentially, he was like a first-time director. The only thing he had directed before was another movie that he sort of pitched for Colleen Hoover to watch when he pitched Colleen Hoover to buy the rights to her book. So let's just take a look at this for a minute. I mean, everybody made money off of this. So like, what's the big whoop? I don't know. But, you know, reputation, follow the money, right? That's what we always say, follow the money. Here you go. It Ends With Us. Budget was 25 million. Opening weekend, they did 50 million, and the worldwide gross thus far is 350 million and change. Made a lot of freaking money. It wasn't even a good movie, says a Pink Swan. It wasn't even a good movie. I'm also taking a personal interest in this because I auditioned for this movie. I auditioned to play Blake Lively's mother in the film. And it was a long time ago. I'm going to pull it up and see when my audition was. But I want to say it was in 2023, like the spring. And I auditioned to play Blake's mother. And my audition scenes were long and they were really good. And it seems like they cut them out of the final version of the film. And I thought those scenes were really important because those were scenes talking about Lily's parents' relationship and, you know, why her mother didn't leave. And I mean, that's the whole premise of the book. It ends with us, right? We're ending the cycle of DV. We're ending the cycle. It ends with us. And I thought that those scenes were really important. Nobody asked me. I didn't get to edit the movie and make a final cut. I didn't even get the part. Okay. So, but I took a special interest in this when it was being made. When I read the book in like in one day, because I got the audition. I'm like, I got to read the book because they don't give you a full script when they give you an audition. They just give you your pages. They give you your sides, which is like just your audition scenes. And So that's also why I take a personal interest in this. The movie's made a lot of freaking money. Okay. Wayfair has made a lot of money off of this movie, no matter whose cut they wound up using in the end. But let's take a look at, compare that with Deadpool and what Deadpool made. All right. So this movie came out, what was the release date? August 9th. Deadpool and Wolverine came out July 26th. So, and I remember when this happened because I remember that the opening weekend of It Ends With Us, I think Blake's movie outdid Ryan's movie. So those of you who know. I did see It's a Simple Favor. Yeah, did you like that one, Team Brittany? Ding, 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 ding. Just me says, I think it's all about the movie rights to It Begins With Us, the sequel. Maybe. I did. I researched the role and everything. I read the book. They're throwing a lot of shade on Blake in this lawsuit. This lawsuit reads like a Hollywood novel, by the way. It doesn't even read like a legal pleading. And because we read pleadings on here all the time. And it is so good and so well written that I feel like we need to read like the first at least 20 pages. I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to do an ASMR voice. It's going to be lovely. It is so well written. I didn't find any typos or misspellings or incorrect grammar. Whoever wrote this is probably, maybe, itching to be a Hollywood writer. I'm just going to say. All right. So here, the Deadpool, to compare this with the Deadpool and Wolverine movie, which was released, 2 weeks before this? The budget on that film was $200 million. $200 million, as opposed to the $25 million that it cost to make It Ends With Us. And their worldwide gross is $1.3 billion. $1.3 billion and change. It is so dramatic. It is so dramatic. I'm here for it. I also find it to be a little bit whiny. Like, it wasn't me, it was you. It wasn't me, it was you. Let's take a look at Justin Baldoni's credits, which, as you can see, I already searched up earlier. If it'll come up for me. All right, let me know if I'm lagging, because I don't know why. I'm hooked onto the Ethernet here. If StreamYard is slow today, I don't know. Okay, but before Justin Baldoni got the directing gig for It Ends With Us, here's what he had done before. We can filter these by director, so let's do that. He had 13 director credits because this is in production. Before this, he directed something called Clouds, which is a 2020 film. I don't know where you can see that. Never heard of it. A couple of shorts. Here's 1 short, 2 shorts, 3 shorts, 4 shorts, 5 shorts. The 5 Feet Apart movie was the movie that he pitched for Colleen Hoover to watch, so he could get he could buy the rights to the book. I don't know where, if this ever played in theaters. I don't know. Does anybody know? Has anybody ever seen this 5 Feet Apart movie? Let's see who's in it. Don't know. Cole Sprouse. Wasn't he like a Nickelodeon actor? Don't know. It was a Lionsgate film. CBS Films. I don't know. Was it a TV movie? I have no idea. But let's just say that this was his first foray into feature film directing, major feature film directing. And it's made $350 million. Okay. Aside from that, I think he did like 99 episodes of Jane the Virgin, which I never watched. So I didn't watch. If you've watched Jane the Virgin, let me know if you liked it, because I have never watched it. There was a TV series called My Last Days, which he was in 22 episodes of. And he also had this podcast, this Man Enough podcast, where he touts himself. And we looked at some clips, I think, in the last show. We've done 2 shows on this so far. Am I man enough? Am I man enough? Before that, he was in 2 episodes of Madam Secretary TV movies. Like I didn't know legitimately, really realistically, I didn't know who Justin Baldoni was until this movie. And even when I did my due diligence during my audition phase, I looked him up. I'm like, oh, I don't know who this guy is, but whatever. It's Blake Lively. Kind of, I could look like her a little bit. I don't know. was a great opportunity. I never watched it. Was he good in Jane the Virgin? I don't know. I'm asking you. So at the same time that he's filed this lawsuit, he's got another kind of whiny thing going on. And he's claiming that Ryan Reynolds mocked him in Deadpool. Anybody see Deadpool? The one that we're talking about, the Deadpool versus Wolverine or whatever the hell that was. And this just came out the other day. That he's complaining that he's accusing Ryan Reynolds of modeling a Deadpool character after him to mock and harass him. So he filed this, the lawsuit against the Times was filed on December 31st. He sent a letter to Disney, a litigation letter, telling them to hang on to all the correspondence that has to do with the character that they created, right down to the man bun, that that character was made to mock him. And they want Disney to to hand over or hang on to any and all documents relating to the development of the Nice Pool character, in addition to communications relating to the development, writing, and filming of storylines and scenes featuring Nice Pool. So, and here's their rationale for that. At one point, Nice Pool compliments Lady Pool, played by Lively, for snapping back into shape after giving birth. Among Lively's allegations against Baldoni is that he fat-shamed her during the making of It Ends With Us, which was filmed shortly after she had given birth. The ultra-nice character also jokingly asked for an intimacy coordinator in one scene. Lively alleged that Baldoni, who also directed It Ends With Us, had inserted improvised gratuitous sexual content and/or scenes involving nudity into the film. The ultra-nice character also jokingly asked for an intimacy coordinator in one scene. Lively alleged that Baldoni, who also directed It Ends With Us, had inserted improvised gratuitous sexual content and/or scenes involving nudity into the film. I want to say that Baldoni's filed a $250 million lawsuit against the New York Times for defamation over the article that they published. We went over that article, I think. We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine, about the alleged campaign to tarnish Lively after she accused him of misconduct. I think it's important to point out here that I don't think that the New York Times has ever lost a lawsuit. I think I read that somewhere. Correct me if I'm wrong, as always. But that lawsuit may be an exercise in futility in LA Superior Court. We got a lot of different lawsuits going on in a lot of different jurisdictions. And so he's kind of butthurt about that as well. Just pointing it out. Gosh, this is the Nice Pool thing is so ridiculous. So there's that. Look, there's always three sides to every story. I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong. I don't really care. Except I think it's fun to go over this. I know that I never thought I would find a case more divisive than Karen Reed, but I think I have found it. And people are so strongly divided on this case, not even knowing any of the players personally. Like I just find it kind of amusing that people get so involved in celebrity gossip and who's right and who's wrong. And they will really fight to like the death on Twitter about this and Reddit. It's crazy. Law and Lit, thanks for becoming a member. Sheila, thanks for becoming a member. Happy Friday, Julie Bean. Thanks for being on top of it with the super sticker on top. And Nina says, hey, Mel, I was on Blake's side. Now I'm more Team Justin. Am I an opportunist or do you feel the same? I don't know. Are we grifters? I don't know. He has quite strong receipts. I don't know. I feel like he's got a lot more to lose. And I feel like they have so much more money. And he's apparently being backed by somebody who's going to pay for this lawsuit. Litigation is expensive. Litigation is so expensive. I'm a civil litigator. For 30 years, I know how expensive litigation is. And I don't think that he's found someone to take this. Brian Freedman is a very, very famous Hollywood lawyer. He did a piece on Megyn Kelly that I was going to show you a little clip of before he filed the lawsuit. When he was talking about the lawsuit, Brian Freedman, he's a very well-renowned attorney. He's not cheap. And these things drag on forever. The wheels of justice turn very, very, very slowly, my friends. He doesn't have a lot of money. She's got a lot more money than he does. She and Ryan both. Really, nobody wins in the end. Nobody wins in litigation. Really, nobody wins. And quite frankly, nobody really knew who he was before this. And I don't know if this is going to help him or hurt him. It could work out that people feel like Blake Lively is a mean girl and that she should be canceled, and Team Justin all the way. He's going to become a really famous Hollywood star. I don't know. I don't really see that. It also could turn out that nobody will ever want to work with Justin Baldoni ever again. I don't personally think that nobody's going to ever want to work with Blake Lively again. And that's what's going to happen here, that Blake and Ryan Reynolds are going to be ostracized from Hollywood and they're never going to work again. I don't see it turning out that way. But who knows? Who knows? The court of public opinion is fickle. Astroturfing is real. The new term that we've learned from this lawsuit. It's going to take forever, but we're here for it. Get some popcorn, grab your florals, and let's read it. I don't know. People think Blake's a mean girl. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion about that either way. I mean, I really don't have a strong opinion. So many people have so many strong opinions about it because of that Kirsty Flaw interview that she did in like 2016 when she was pregnant, and they pointed out her little bump. And it's like, go look at how many more videos since then Kirsty Flaw has published on her YouTube channel. Like, that thing didn't even come out. That she didn't even show that video until this thing exploded, right? I mean, she's had that interview since 2016. Some people love to hate Blake. I don't know. Look, I saw her in Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants with one of my kids when she was very, very young. It was like her first movie. She was like 17. And I was like, oh, that girl's going to be a big star. I don't know. Some people like to hate on successful women. Some people are like, oh, if she was really being sexually harassed, why didn't she leave? Why didn't she quit? I mean, you're going to see in this lawsuit that he had the opportunity to let her go. I mean, if he wanted to let her go and she was such a horror to work with, why didn't he let her go? Right? I mean, I don't know. Does she deserve the right to be on a movie set and not be sexually harassed? I would submit to you, yes. Is she making it up? I would submit to you that she's probably got witnesses to back all this stuff up. These text messages can be kind of read either way, right? They're open to interpretation, and that's why there's juries. And this is going to be a thing that jurors are going to have to decide if it gets that far. I don't see either one of them settling. I mean, if they do, it's going to be totally confidential and there'll be like an airtight NDA that nobody can talk about. But, he's also claiming that she and Ryan, I guess, wrote a statement, an apology statement that they wanted him to read like a hostage video, and he didn't want to do it. He's also claiming that he was relegated to the basement with his family and friends during the premiere of his own movie, and she stole the movie from him. She made an edit. Sony picked her edit. They liked it better. Personally, I thought the edit stunk. Okay, so I don't know. Was his edit worse than that? I didn't like the edit at all. I've watched the movie twice. I saw it in the theater and I watched it on Netflix. I thought it jumped around in time too much. I thought, in my personal opinion, I didn't see any chemistry between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively at all. I've heard that people are claiming the opposite, that they thought their chemistry was so great that they must have been having an affair during this film because it was so palpable. I mean, I didn't see it. I thought he was miscast as Ryle. I read the book. That's not who I pictured as Ryle. I didn't see any chemistry between them. That's just my own personal opinion. It's my own personal opinion. And really, who cares about my opinion? Who cares about your opinion? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And they've also dragged Taylor Swift into this. They've dragged Taylor Swift into this. And she's a dragon. Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds are dragons. Blake Lively is Khaleesi. And apparently she's alleging that Ryan Reynolds wrote that rooftop scene. I also didn't think that rooftop scene was so great either. The rooftop scene where they first meet. Didn't think it was so great. I thought something was off about it. Now that I've read this lawsuit, I want to go back and watch that rooftop scene again. Let me know what you think. Leave Taylor alone. That's what I say. Leave Taylor alone. Leave Taylor alone. Little Mr. Velvet says, didn't he pay a PR firm to smear her? Well, they're claiming all those text messages were taken out of context and out of proportion. And no, absolutely no, they did not do that. He did that to her. Let's pull up her statement. And she made a statement today regarding this lawsuit before we get to the lawsuit, just so I can get this out of the way and close this tab because I feel like I'm lagging because I have too many tabs open. So if I don't do it now, I'll forget to do it later. So here's the statement that she made This was just, I guess this was from last night. I think there's the whole statement is below. I'll just read the statement in its entirety. And here it is. Here is today's statement from Lively's legal team. This latest lawsuit from Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer Studios, and its associates is another chapter in the abuser playbook. This is an age-old story. A woman speaks up with concrete evidence of sexual harassment and retaliation, and the abuser attempts to turn the tables on the victim. This is what experts call DARVO: deny, attack, reverse, victim offender. Wayfarer has opted to use the resources of its billionaire co-founder, to issue media statements, launch meritless lawsuits, and threaten litigation to overwhelm the public's ability to understand what they are doing is retaliation against sexual harassment allegations. They are trying to shift the narrative to Ms. Lively by falsely claiming that she seized creative control and alienated the cast from Mr. Baldoni. The evidence will show that the cast and others had their own negative experiences with Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer. The evidence will also show that Sony asked Ms. Lively to oversee Sony's cut of the film, which they then selected for distribution and was a resounding success. It was a $350 million success. Their response to sexual harassment allegations: she wanted it, it's her fault. Their justification for why this happened to her: look what she was wearing. In short, while the victim focuses on the abuse, the abuser focuses on the victim. The strategy of attacking the woman is desperate. It does not refute the evidence in Ms. Lively's complaint, and it will fail. That, in a nutshell, is Team Lively's response to this latest lawsuit. Good morning, Mama She. Good morning. Top Korea became a new member. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I think you're going to like it here. All right. They brought Taylor into it. Let's get to it. Everybody can have an opinion. Taylor can have an opinion too. And by the way, they did use her song, My Tears Ricochet, in the film. That might not have been possible without Blake's input. Right? Might not be. Brian is an excellent lawyer. And also, very sadly and tragically, I believe he just lost his house in Pacific Palisades during the fires. So it's tragic. Mm-hmm. It didn't end with them, Vanessa, and it doesn't seem like it's going to end with them anytime soon. But first, let's take a quick look at that interview that Megyn Kelly did with Brian Freedman. I think it was 9 days ago. And he's talking about what's going to happen. All right, hold on. I don't want Megan to strike me, so I'm just going to play his face. Okay. She says, are you going to sue Blake Lively too? Hi, Megan. This is Brian Freedman, attorney for Justin Baldoni. This was 9 days ago, this interview. She said, are you going to sue Blake Lively too?
Into oblivion, Megan. Wait till you see this lawsuit.
Oh boy. Well, for what?
I'm just going to tell you, you're going to have to wait and see. It's coming up soon, but it's all going to be based on evidence. It's not going to be just a lawsuit. It's going to be the kind of lawsuit that is full of evidence, admissions, documents, which prove exactly what she did and how she bullied her way through the process to take over the movie and used her PR people to try and destroy Justin. And that's what it's going to be, essentially about. But there will be a number of causes of action. There's a number of different defendants here. Stephanie Jones will be all over this complaint. That is the PR agent who was supposed to be working for Justin Baldoni. There's Leslie Sloan, who's another PR agent who will be part of this lawsuit. That was Blake Lively's. Blake Lively will be sued. And we're carefully considering other people that will be sued also. And some of it comes as a surprise. Ryan Reynolds, for sure.
Oh, wow. He was involved in this to some extent. There was a meeting at their apartment at which you allege that there were some senior production people who witnessed him allegedly berate Justin Baldoni to the point where these third parties felt upset that they didn't do more to stand up for Justin, that they thought Ryan Reynolds was so abusive. I think he would say, I was standing up for my wife who'd been sexually harassed by this guy and so on. But what role did he have in all this?
Well, arguably, for the first time at the premiere, you find out that Blake Lively tells people that all of a sudden he wrote a scene in the movie. I mean, shocking everybody, shocking Sony, shocking the production staff. It's the first time they're hearing it. And, Justin handles that really, really well and doesn't want to say she's a liar or doesn't want to say that's inappropriate or doesn't want to say that's part of someone else's job. And he treats her very well about that. But what Ryan Reynolds, has seemingly done, right, is used his power and influence to not only help Blake Lively take over this movie, but, he's used it, on Deadpool and to make fun of Justin Baldoni.
Do you think that's what he did? We have a clip where his character Deadpool, which is very popular in this movie, acts more like.
Yeah, we're not going to show that clip because they're definitely not going to like that. But they do show the clip and talk about the man bun. Then they go into her, her interview with Parker Posey from all the time 2016.
We weren't allowed to talk to her on the set. We weren't allowed to ask for an autograph. We were, instructed.
Yeah, you're not supposed to. This is interesting too. So they go back to like some old stories about other sets and how people were like, and there's a girl right now who's on TikTok and she's doing a lot of interviews right now. She's saying, oh, years ago when I worked as an intern on Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, I got in trouble. She admits that she was a Nepo baby of some kind. Her parents are in the industry. She was an intern on that set and that she got in trouble because she walked down a hallway and they accused her of like talking to Blake and they got mad about it. So just listen to this for a second.
To my firm's website, more than 50 actually, about texts. I mean, since I've been involved in this case, I've gotten 50 either texts or emails or things to my firm's website, more than 50 actually, about this was my experience with Blake Lively. We weren't allowed to talk to her on the set. We weren't allowed to ask for an autograph. We were, instructed, this way or that. We were treated like this. I mean, and these things aren't coming because we're doing an investigation. These are completely organic. These are based on people's real life experiences. In fact, we've come across evidence that
Right.
Shows that even her own representatives knew that she was threatening and mean and tough and wanted to get her way. This is not something that we wanted out there. It's not something that Justin wanted out there. In fact, it hurts the movie.
I mean, look, he's representing his client and he's only going to talk about things that are helpful to his client. Obviously, he's taking his client's side. This is a huge lawsuit. They're looking for 400 million on this and 250 million on the other. And people, as I'm putting up these comments, I'm putting up both sides of the comments, people even in this chat, there are 1,100 of you here right now, have such strong opinions about this. Most of you, if you don't care, just tell me because I don't really care either way. But I think it's interesting that so many people care so much about this. So of course I'm going to cover it for you.
It doesn't help the movie. And Justin knew that. And Justin's, this was about, domestic violence and getting the message across. I mean, I'll just, give you, a couple of examples. In May of 2024, when Blake Lively got her own cut of the movie, Justin said, in a text message.
Yeah, this is we'll get into all this because it's all in there. But he said something about people not being able to ask for like an autograph on a movie set.
I'll call it.
Like that's standard. Okay, interns and people who are working background and extras, they call them background now, are not supposed to be talking to the stars and asking for autographs. It's just not done. It's in poor form. You just don't do it. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal. You're not supposed to do it. So him saying that somebody said that and all these people are reaching out saying that she was so mean. Yeah, exactly. I have no opinion on this. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out though. So it's interesting that there's so many people that feel so strongly. So let's get to it. I'm going to read you part of the filing so that you can listen to this because we read a lot of pleadings together. This is unlike any pleadings that I've ever read because, like I said, it reads more like a novel, like a Hollywood script. You tell me what you think as we read. And of course, it's a complaint. Everything is going to be skewed towards the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs in this complaint are Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, It Ends With Us Movie LLC, Melissa Nathan, and Jennifer Abel. So they brought those two girls in on this as plaintiffs. And we went over what their roles were when we went over the other complaints, Stephanie Jones and the CCRD complaint that was filed by Blake. Against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, Leslie Sloan, and Vision PR. Leslie Sloan is, and I think continues to be, the PR person for Blake and Ryan. I think Vision PR is the name of her company. And here are the allegations. And this introduction goes on for pages and pages and pages and pages. The following is not a story plaintiffs ever wished to tell. Unfortunately, defendant Blake Lively has unequivocally left them with no choice, not only to set the record straight in response to Lively's accusations, but also to put the spotlight on the parts of Hollywood that they have dedicated their careers to being the antithesis of. That task was always going to be an uphill battle. They never imagined they would encounter it to this degree. Had Lively chosen to merely ride out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August of 2024, the public likely would have moved on and never known the truth about her. Listen, I mean, I'm just going to break for a second to tell you to listen to all the jabs. There's so many jabs in here. You usually don't see this in legal pleadings. Usually it's like, this is what happened. We allege this, we allege that. Here's what we're going to go through all the elements of the torts that we're claiming and how they fall into every category of everything that we need to prove in order to prove slander, libel, defamation. Here's what they did here. But this is there's a lot of jabs in here. So take that for what it's worth. Okay. The public would likely have moved on and never known the truth about her. They would have never known that she deliberately and systematically robbed plaintiffs Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios of their movie. No one except the parties involved would have known that she used threats and extortion to relegate the colleagues she once highly praised to a basement to sit out their own premiere while she enjoyed the spotlight of a premiere and after party that was ultimately co-financed by both Wayfarer and Sony. There's pictures of it. We're going to get to those photos. It's like, we paid for the party, we co-financed the party, and we had to sit in the basement. It's going to be up to a jury. Let's put it that way. I mean, there's pictures of them in the basement. They were in the basement, but how they got there, how it happened, I don't know. A lot of jabs. She would have gotten away with these things and more because Baldoni, focused entirely on seeing the film succeed, would have held his tongue as he had through the year and a half that Lively tormented him, his family, and partners. Okay, so he's saying that for a year and a half. He sucked it up. And she was, in the meantime, tormented me, my family, and my partners. Again, we're going to get to this. But if she was so horrible to work with, why didn't you just get rid of her? She gave you the opportunity. She said, you can replace me. I'll give you 2 weeks. Replace me. Money. Follow the money. The movie made $350 million. But Lively could not tolerate her publicly tainted image for even a moment, and further could not accept that it was entirely of her own making. She needed a scapegoat. And rather than admit and take accountability for her own mishaps, she chose to blame plaintiffs in a malicious and unforgivingly public manner. When she and Reynolds could not force Baldoni and Wayfarer to read a statement she and her representatives prepared, extorting them to take accountability in defense of Lively's actions, she lay in wait for months, preparing to publicly attack Baldoni by falsely claiming that he had sexually harassed her. Them's fighting words. Same falsified stories she had calculatingly devised and used throughout the production of this film in order to take control were now being used publicly to destroy Baldoni and plaintiffs. Just breaking for a second to say, I know a lot of you have followed Karen Reed with me, but this is like the Marcy hostage video. It was like that statement that he read on camera, the district attorney. It was almost as if someone had scripted that for him to read, and they were off camera holding a weapon to his head. I call it the hostage video. That's what it looked like to me. But apparently, this really does happen if we take Justin's complaint for truth. Lively stole Wayfarer's movie, hijacked Wayfarer's premiere destroyed plaintiffs' personal and professional reputations and livelihood, and aimed to drive plaintiffs out of business entirely. It further appears that Lively worked for months with the equally powerful New York Times to prepare a false and damaging narrative to deploy against plaintiffs. Not surprisingly, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the Civil Rights Department in California in an attempt to use the litigation privilege to shield her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times. But upon information and belief, the CRD complaint was filed only after defendants spent months feeding falsehoods to the New York Times, intending that they be disseminated to damage plaintiffs. Lively delivered the CRD complaint to plaintiffs over the Christmas holiday, and rather than promptly file a lawsuit, Lively, on information and belief, leaked the typically private CRD complaint to the public, utilizing the New York Times as a conduit for her revenge. This CRD complaint, and upon information and belief, the false information delivered to the New York Times before the CRD complaint was filed, was rife with lies and doctored, quote, evidence. Lively then waited 11 days to file suit against the plaintiffs in what seemed to be a desperate move after the public questioned why she had never filed a civil lawsuit. Okay, I'm going to break from this to say that in California, in order to sue for discrimination, employment discrimination, you have to file with the CCRD first and get a right to sue letter. So this is kind of an interesting argument because then she filed her lawsuit in New York anyway. So that's the thing. Is there any California admitted attorneys in here? You can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that is my understanding of California. And it's a prerequisite to filing a lawsuit. You need a right to sue letter. So there's that. On information and belief, Lively never intended to file a civil lawsuit, which would have triggered plaintiffs' right to discovery, including obtaining evidence and deposing Lively under oath. By the time Lively actually filed a lawsuit against the plaintiffs, the damage to plaintiffs was done by virtue of Lively's months of colluding with the New York Times on a false and malicious narrative, unshielded by any privilege. Make no mistake, these actions were deliberate. Okay, so there's only like 11 days. There was like an 11-day delay, right? They're saying in those 11 days, Wayfarer and Baldoni's reputation was decimated and destroyed beyond repair. In order to succeed on damages in a case like that, you have to show what his reputation was worth to begin with. And like I said, a lot of people don't even know who he was. So there's that. Just goes to damages. And I think that you can bet that the New York Times pretty thoroughly vets their journalism. I don't know. I'm just saying. Robin points out Ryan Reynolds is brilliant. He owns a pro soccer team, investment firm, software company, $610 million gin company, and more. He sold Mint for $1.35 billion. Ryan Reynolds did not file untrue documents that could hurt his or Blake Lively's career. So there's that. But Law Junkie here says the OBGYN friend is an actor. Blake was wearing false prego belly. We're going to get into that. Hospital gown and briefs. She doesn't tell the truth. She was not near nude. Well, it depends on whose version you believe. They're going to have to prove all this in court. I mean, that's what's in his pleadings. She may say for one of the takes, they wanted me to take those briefs off and put this thing on. And we have to wait for the evidence. I mean, taking anybody's word as the God to honest truth until there's sworn testimony, I think is a little premature. But there's that. Plaintiffs have no choice but to fight back armed only with the truth and the mountain of concrete evidence disproving Lively's allegations. Heartbreakingly, a film that Baldoni envisioned years ago would honor the survivors of domestic violence by telling their story with the lofty goal of making a positive impact in the world has now been overshadowed beyond recognition solely as a result of Lively's actions and cruelty. Lively wields immense power as one of the world's best known celebrities. In 2024, she used that power to seize control of the film It Ends With Us. Produced and co-financed by plaintiff Wayfarer and directed by Baldoni, who also portrayed the lead, Ryle. She set out to destroy plaintiffs' livelihoods and businesses if they did not bend to her incessant demands, and when they refused to give way, she did exactly that, accusing them of foul and reprehensible sexual misconduct. Wayfarer was blindsided when Lively, upon the conclusion of the industry strikes, refused to return to production, absent the companies agreeing to her non-negotiable non-negotiable protections for return to production. The return to production demands that insinuated misconduct had occurred during filming, which, as evidence will establish, did not. Well, he's going to show some text messages to say that we were really good friends. We were getting along. We were texting back and forth. She was joking with me. I was joking with her. You know, she's claiming that I was fat shaming her, but she told me I needed a nose job. I mean, this is literally what we're getting into here. You know, she's saying that I asked her personal trainer how much she weighed, but I have a bad back, and she's the one who set me up with that personal trainer to begin with. So a lot of this complaint is he's not so much saying that what she's saying is a lie. He's saying, well, she did this, but she says I did this, but she did this. So there's that. Look at there. And could it be said also that he knew, I mean, obviously he knew that she wields immense power in the industry. That's why he wanted her in the film, because he knew that having Blake Lively in his film was going to make his film more successful. I don't know. Can that argument be made? Absolutely. Could he have replaced her? Absolutely. It would have been cheaper than this litigation in the end. Where was I? Blindsided. Okay. Wayfarer was equally blindsided when Lively leveraged this document, essentially signed under duress. Okay, so now he's not denying that he signed this agreement. He's saying that he signed it under duress to seize control of the film, ultimately getting her own cut of the film and a coveted PGA mark, and at her command, ousting Baldoni from all marketing and promotional efforts with many of the cast members and the author, all of whom he, until then, had long-standing positive relationships with. Again, it's like his feelings were hurt. His feelings were hurt. Nobody wanted to sit with me at the premiere. We had to do it in 2 different theaters. They made me and my people go into the basement while she came on the red carpet. Look, this is not uncommon. Okay, it's not uncommon. I'll tell you that because when Brangelina, at the height of their hatred for each other, when they were both appearing at any red carpet event, there would be strict instructions to separate them. They were never allowed to arrive at the same time. They had to have her totally out of sight before he arrived, or vice versa. And this happens a lot. Maybe not so much in your own movie that he thinks he is like the king of this movie, and he just has hurt feelings. He has very hurt feelings. He's very sensitive. And if you've ever watched or listened to his podcast, you know that he has a lot of feelings. If you watched his engagement video that he made for his wife, you will know that he's very sensitive and has a lot of emotions. And this is very emotional for him. And that's what this feels like. It feels like his feelings were hurt. Lively's exclusion of Baldoni from the promotion of the film backfired, as she chose to callously promote her hair care and alcoholic beverage products rather than bring attention to survivors of DV, the entire premise of the film. Baldoni, now prohibited from attending events or taking photos with Lively and the cast, promoted the film as he had always intended, ever since he first began the process of making the film years ago. Okay, so he's going to say, because we looked at that marketing plan and we looked at what their marketing plan was and what they were supposed to not focus on the DV. So now he's saying that he wanted to focus on it, and he's going to claim he signed that under duress too, or that marketing plan was something that he never agreed to. When Lively faced significant public backlash from what was often referred to as her tone-deaf and insensitive press tour for the film, she doubled down on her false and misleading accusations against Baldoni. She seemed determined to make Baldoni the real-life villain in her story. Her publicist, I'm not biased. I just told you I don't care about this case at all, Jamie. I don't care. I'm pointing out both sides of it. I'm reading his story to you now, and I'm pointing out the stuff that we already went over, which is her story. There's his story, there's her story, and somewhere is the truth. We're not going to know until there's any sort of, any sort of trial or any sort of testimony. But if you don't like it, these are the places that you can go to watch it. Sheesh. I mean, I guess you missed my whole opening about how I really don't care, but I'm going to point out both sides of it today. Yeah, it reads like he's been given a narcissistic injury. That's what it feels like. That is exactly what it feels like. Right. Aren't we all biased? I've read the documents. I've read all 179 pages. Jamie, have you? Have you read the 179 pages? That's all. That's all I'm going to say. Unbelievable. Her publicist, Leslie Sloan, went so far as to propagate malicious stories portraying Baldoni as a sexual predator. And again, Blake Lively is pointing out that Baldoni's team, including Melisa, Nathan, and Jennifer Abel, planted false stories about her and astroturfed and hired bots and there was a whole smear campaign orchestrated by them. But now he's saying, I didn't do that to you. You did that to me. Will we ever know the truth? I don't know. A term Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, also used to describe Baldoni when he called Baldoni's own agent. Okay. And then they're also going to blame, in fact, out of, I think, 6 or 7 causes of action, at least 3 of them are against Blake and Ryan for allegedly forcing his agent at William Morris at WME to terminate him. So that's one of the big parts of this case. Modern society justly reviles sexual harassers and abusers, and Lively knew full well that making those allegations would be a career death sentence for plaintiffs, especially given that Baldoni has lived his private and public life as an impassioned advocate for gender equality and healthy masculinity. Those are his words, not mine. She did not expect, however, that plaintiffs would be able to meet those allegations with concrete documentary evidence disproving her claims and demonstrating that they, not Lively, were the targets of a calculated and vitriolic smear campaign. Okay? So we didn't smear you, you smeared us. That evidence, included in part herein, is the basis for plaintiffs' claims against the defendants for their extortion, defamation, and further wrongdoing. The film was the hotly anticipated adaptation of a worldwide best-selling book by Colleen Hoover, and by starring in it as Lily, Lively stood to enhance her already considerable star power. But she was not content merely to headline one of the year's biggest movies. Instead, apparently driven by overweening, we don't see that word very often, overweening ambition and a need for control, Lively eventually leveraged her power as a wealthy celebrity to wrest the reins from her co-star and the film's director, Baldoni, insisting on total control over every aspect of the film she could get her hands on, from wardrobe to marketing strategy to music, even creating her own cut of the film. Okay, now, footnote 1 says, in an early meeting with Baldoni, Lively foreshadowed what was to come, stating, quote, "I'm afraid you have too much power," end quote, referencing Baldoni's dual role as a producer and director. This statement made an early impact on Baldoni, who felt compelled to reassure her the relationship would be collaborative and went above and beyond to make it so. This was not an invitation to sideline him and his producing partners. Okay, so again, I say, he didn't like it. Why didn't he just say no? He's the head mofo in charge of this movie. Why didn't he just say no? He couldn't say no to her? He could say no to her. He also could have replaced her. But again, without her, would the movie have made $350 million? I don't know. Somebody just said in there, are you saying that you don't believe any of the receipts in this complaint? I'm saying they're open to interpretation. They're open to interpretation, as is everything. That's why there's juries. Doesn't matter what I think. Not only did Lively's power play cost numerous people their jobs. Okay, now he's blaming her for putting people out of work. But at every turn, her wrong-headed creative decisions reflected her fundamental lack of understanding of the book the film was based on. This came as no surprise to her worried colleagues, given that, even well into production, Lively had not even read the book. And that is bolded and italicized and footnoted. And it's like Karen Reed didn't take her shoes off when she went into One Meadows the morning that they found John's body, and therefore she must be guilty. Lively did not even read the book. Therefore, this is all her fault. I'm going to point out to you many times actors do not read books of the movies that they're based on because they don't want to be influenced by the book's interpretation of the character. They want to They want to interpret the character themselves. Does it make her a horrible person? Does it make her guilty because she didn't read the book? I don't know. It's for a jury to decide, I guess. But footnote number 2 says, Lively later claimed she had read the book, but text evidence shows well into production that she had not, and in fact, expressed she had chosen not to read the book. She even tried to Google the color of a character's hair rather than pick up the book. I mean, these are the things that they're harping on, right? She didn't read the book. All right, didn't read the book. We'll just write it down for later. And here is a September 14th, 2023 text message from Baldoni to Heath. After rereading the book, which had 150 pages to build their relationship, we have combined scenes to heighten the stakes for Ryle in pursuit of Lily, utilizing humor and his desire to sleep with her. While I understand Blake's reasons for not wanting to read the book does a very good job in getting Lily's mind during her interactions with Ryle and setting up the why behind her attraction to him, which ultimately helps us understand why she stays in the end. Well, she doesn't stay in the end. So I'm confused by this text message. Oh, no, it's not. The book isn't 150 pages. It says there's 150 pages building the relationship in the book, but she doesn't stay in the end. I've read the book and I saw the movie, and so that's why I'm a little bit confused. And also, he's sending this to his buddy Heath, who he does his podcast with. And he says, well, I understand her reasons for not wanting to read the book. And also, remember, Colleen Hoover was accessible, and I think she had some input into this film. She's the author of the book. So, I don't know. Lively's disastrous marketing efforts and tone-deaf press interviews and appearances backfired and led to widespread criticism of Lively's promotional approach to the film's highly sensitive focus on domestic violence. Past videos of Lively resurfaced online, videos that appeared to solidify public perception that Lively was an insensitive, mean girl who cared more about her peddling her products than acknowledging the domestic violence survivor community. Social media commenters quickly pointed out that her tie-in of her alcohol beverages was in particularly poor taste, given the World Health Organization's estimates that 55% of domestic violence incidents are linked to alcohol. Unbelievably, Lively made this harmful and irresponsible message worse by naming a drink at her premiere after party, Ryle You Wait, after the character who committed DV in the film. The suggestion that Wayfarer caused the online backlash against her is absurd, given the evidence of her own insensitivity. Okay, Ryle You Wait. I would agree that it's not a great idea to promote an alcohol product during a film whose message is DV. I do agree with that. Sadly, this backlash, but he's saying it's all her fault. We didn't do anything. We didn't orchestrate this smear campaign against her. Whatever happened to her was a result of her own actions. We had nothing to do with it. But as we've seen in other filings, there are text messages that could be interpreted to show, and I think emails too, could be interpreted to show the opposite, that they did perhaps intentionally conduct a smear campaign against her during or shortly after the film's premiere, or right before. I can't remember exactly, but sadly, this backlash could have been avoided had she not refused to meet with the film's DV partner organization, nomore.org, as Baldoni had offered. Even a brief visit to their website or a simple online search would have readily uncovered this and other information on the topic of DV. Meanwhile, Baldoni, who Lively herself had ensured was excluded from participating in her marketing efforts, was safeguarded from this backlash as he focused on amplifying the voices of those affected by DV, as originally intended when he reached out to author Colleen Hoover 5 years earlier, and documented by his partnership with nomore.org dating back to 2022. Right, but I think he got I'm going to just write this down. 2022 is when he partnered with No More .org, and I think he obtained the rights to the book earlier. So maybe he partnered with them because he had the rights to the book. Baldoni's sincere efforts were well received, even more so in contrast with Lively's campaign to downplay the premiere of the film and sell hair care and alcohol products. Lively, enraged that her plans were foiled and armed with proof, in quotes, proof, of alleged sexual harassment in the form of a 17-point list of demands she had required plaintiffs to sign just months earlier, focused her rage on Baldoni, blaming him for the consequences of her own missteps. Meanwhile, Stephanie Jones, founder of JonesWorks, Wayfair and Baldoni's PR firm, was embroiled in a personal and professional crisis. Here's where they start attacking Stephanie Jones. Her increasingly erratic behavior had driven away not only high-profile clients, but also her right-hand woman, plaintiff Jennifer Abel, who oversaw the JonesWorks LA office. Jones's behavior grew more and more bizarre as she lashed out at loyal clients like Wayfair in a rage-filled rants, plural, and veered away from professional experience and strategy when making critical decisions affecting JonesWorks clients. After a final outburst against Wayfair in which she outright refused to comply with their direct instructions, Wayfair had no choice but to cut ties with Jones and JonesWorks rather than leave their public image in the hands of what appeared to be an out-of-control Jones, whose actions were not aligned with Wayfair and Baldoni's worldview and wishes. Jones was filled with impotent rage at Wayfair and at Abel, who a month before had announced her decision to leave JonesWorks to form her own company. Jones saw an opportunity for revenge, and she took it. On information and belief, Jones, Lively, Reynolds, and Leslie Sloan, Lively's publicist, and others concocted a plan whereby Jones would seize Abel's phone upon her departure and mine it for messages that, stripped of content, could be used to concoct a false narrative that the disastrous press coverage of Lively's callous and opportunistic comments and the public reactions to those comments were not Lively's fault at all, but the result of a calculated, though in reality non-existent, smear campaign by Baldoni and his team. Okay, let's just take a breath for a minute. Baldoni is saying, we didn't orchestrate a smear campaign to smear her. They orchestrated taking possession of Jen Abel's phone when she quit to orchestrate the fact that we orchestrated a smear campaign against her. We didn't do it. They orchestrated it to make it look like that's what we did. Gives me a headache. My head is spinning just reading this. On information and belief, Jones's role in this scheme accounts for her conspicuous absence from Lively's retelling of events. Plaintiffs are informed and believe that defendants have been working in concert since at least August 21 of 2024, when Sloan boasted to Nathan that she had seen her text and that Nathan would soon be sued. Though Lively claimed Baldoni was the one smearing her, the reality is that it was Lively and her team who carefully planned and implemented a vile smear campaign against Baldoni and Wayfair to deflect attention and blame for Lively's disastrous misjudgments. Lively would recast herself as the long-suffering martyr by portraying Baldoni and Wayfair as her persecutors, the masterminds behind a smear campaign that evidence will show did not exist. Defendant Sloan of Vision PR was all too willing to carry out this strategy, especially once armed with ammunition by Jones, who was bent on revenge against her ex-employee and former client. Footnote 3 says, while it is not entirely uncommon to request that an exiting employee return company property, it is not often the case that the personal phone numbers, and communication are seized, made public, and weaponized against the employee and the company's own clients. Shortly after the film's premiere and the public backlash against Lively, together with her husband, Ryan Reynolds, demanded through their talent agency which also represented Wayfair and Baldoni, that plaintiffs publicly apologize for so-called mistakes during production in order to deflect the avalanche of negative media coverage of Lively. Reynolds and Lively drafted a statement and demanded that Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Heath issue that statement, requiring them to apologize to the public and fall on their sword, despite having done nothing wrong, or else, quote, the gloves would come off, end quote. Multiple WME executives acknowledged that in their experience, Lively and Reynolds' threats were not to be taken lightly, though admitting to false, vague, and unspecified mistakes would be tantamount to admitting to career-ending misconduct. Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Heath refused to apologize for sins they had never committed. They took a stand, knowing full well that Lively and Reynolds would bring the full might of their celebrity artillery against them, and this is precisely what happened. Okay, so I just want to point out that there's a lot of receipts on a lot of things here. There's also some things that they assert that they don't have receipts on. So like, where is this? Who are all these multiple WME executives who have said that, you know, Lively and Reynolds are don't take their threats lightly? Where did they refuse to read this apology? Where's the apology as drafted, allegedly by Lively and her team? Is it in here? It's 179 pages long, but I don't remember seeing it. Let me know if you've seen it, where I can find it, what page it's on. Lively, working with her husband, her publicist, and Jones, among others, set out on a campaign to tar and feather plaintiffs in the press. They conspired and worked in concert with the New York Times to put out a blockbuster news report as devastating as it was false. They advanced a fabricated narrative in the press that plaintiffs had sexually harassed Lively, then embarked on a calculated and malicious smear campaign to destroy her reputation as retaliation for daring to complain about the harassment. Okay, so the allegation here is that Blake and her team went on social and put out a false narrative that Baldoni smeared her. No, it's confusing. Defendants laid their trap carefully over a period of months before springing it all at once on the eve of the winter holidays. Just as plainly, they knew full well that their claims were entirely baseless because their own wrongfully obtained evidence proved that neither the alleged sexual harassment nor the accompanying smear campaign against Lively ever existed. Yet Lively moved forward with her plan with ruthless precision, doubling down in the face of abundant evidence, casting doubt on the veracity of her story. Lively even went so far as to serve her lawsuit on the Los Angeles-based defendants. Oh, okay. All right. If you haven't been listening, listen up to this. Lively even went so far as to serve her lawsuit on the Los Angeles-based defendants as they evacuated their homes in the midst of devastating fires engulfing their city. On a day when defendants were gathering their kids and pets, preparing go bags, and monitoring evacuation orders while fearing for their homes, Lively, from the safety of her penthouse in New York, deployed process servers in the midst of these troubling times. Okay. Anybody who's ever worked at a law firm, anybody who's a lawyer, anybody who has any knowledge of these such things, ever worked for a process server, knows that you send your complaint to the process server goes out and serves it. You have no idea when it's going to be served. You don't know when it's going to be served. You send it out for service. This is weaponization of a very horrific thing that went on in California. So when this was filed 2 days ago by, coincidentally, Brian Freedman, who's the attorney whose house burned down in the Palisades fire, from what I understand, he wasn't served in this lawsuit because he's not a defendant. This paragraph, in my opinion, is in poor form. It did happen to them, but it is not like it was something that was, if it did happen, it is not something that was orchestrated by the plaintiff's firm in that lawsuit. It's a headline grabber. At bottom, this is not a case about celebrities sniping at each other in the press. This is a case about two of the most powerful stars in the world deploying their enormous power to steal an entire film right out of the hands of its director and production studio. Then, when Lively and Reynolds' efforts failed to win them the acclaim they believed they so richly deserved, they turned their fury on their chosen scapegoat. Tolerating a year and a half of their behavior while remaining polite and professional at every turn offered Baldoni and Wayfarer no protection. By bringing this complaint, plaintiffs commit themselves to seeking and proving the facts, based not on the insinuations built from selectively edited and context-free text snippets, but by putting all the evidence before the court and the public. When plaintiffs have had their day in court, the jury will recognize that even the most powerful celebrity cannot bend the truth to her will. That is only one of the things that I think they're trying to do with this lawsuit. Even the most powerful celebrity cannot bend the truth to her will. It feels like retaliation, which is exactly what she was claiming, coincidentally. Just feels that way. Oh, thank you, Leslie, for your compliment. Nina, serious question. Have we ever heard of a no-name director sexually harass an actress with huge power? Something doesn't add up here. Yeah, we have. I know of many things that have happened in Hollywood with no-name directors, no-name writers who have not only sexually harassed, but actually forcibly intercoursed stars. Remember that writer? There was a writer on Girls, I think. Nobody had ever heard of him. Writers. So yeah, it happens. Thanks, Nina, for your super chat. All right. Let's go to the chat for the minute before maybe we're going to skip around a little bit because it's 179 pages. Let me just see what I have highlighted here so that we can. But that was very dramatic, wasn't it? Very dramatic. Okay, so Baldoni goes on to say he co-founded Wayfair in 2019. He was deeply moved when he read the book, It Ends With Us, and that he wants to share meaningful stories. And then he goes on to his feature film directorial debut, that 5 Feet Apart movie that we talked about. That was about a woman with cystic fibrosis. So again, I'm going to point out to you, this is only the second film that he's ever directed, second feature. First one was a movie that I've never heard of, 5 Feet Apart. He talks about how collaborative he wants to be in this film, and then he blames her for stealing his movie. I'm going to point it out again. The movie made $350 million. This is about hurt feelings, in my opinion. Then he goes on to say how he's a big, how he's involved in cystic fibrosis. And then in pursuit of the same vision, in 2019, they acquired the film rights to It Ends With Us. Okay, so this is one of the first things they ever did. They start this company, Wayfair, in 2019. And he acquires the rights, or they acquire the rights to It Ends With Us, which was a novel by Colleen Hoover, as we know, from 2016. Though positioned as a romance novel, the book explores themes of DV and generational patterns of abuse. And these messages resonated deeply with readers and drew a passionate fan base. When It Ends With Us author Colleen Hoover watched 5 Feet Apart in theaters, she told Baldoni, "You are the right person to make this movie." Baldoni's early emails to Hoover demonstrate his commitment to doing so in the manner he envisioned would be most impactful. And then he says, in fact, it was Hoover who suggested that Baldoni portray Ryle. And then they attached some emails between Colleen Hoover, the author, and Justin Baldoni, The first one here is from Justin to Colleen in February of 2019. And I guess this is their first contact because he says, "Hello, Colleen. Thank you for the intro, blank," who I guess he CC'd on this. "Wow, it's such a pleasure to e-meet you, and thank you for being open to have me potentially option your book. Some quick backstory. My purpose and intention in this insane business are simple. Create impact by making content that helps us remember our shared humanity. Content that asks us to be better, to make the hard choice in the moment, to make the hard choice in the moment that one day on our deathbeds we will be grateful for. It's been a tough road, but an incredible one, as our industry doesn't often reward those of us trying to change culture. Luckily, it's the messages of those that watch the content that are the reward and the lives we have affected. I've always believed the financial reward will come, but it's not the primary motivation." Hoover suggesting that Baldoni portray Ryle is not the flex you think it is. Thank you, Stephanie Sweedler. As Johanna may have told you, I'm building and got funding for a company whose mission is to tell high-end, meaningful stories. And I just finished my first film with my second setup at Warner Brothers going this fall based on this short documentary I directed 7 years ago. Also, if you'd like to see an early screening of 5 Feet Apart, I'm sure I can make that happen as well. Where are you based? Just want to say, of all the reviews I read for your book, this one stood out to me. It makes me so excited to potentially work with you. Your fans love you. What a gift you have. And then he cuts and pastes some reviews of her book. Yes, please send over an ebook, but I also just purchased it on paperback as I like supporting authors. Looking forward, Justin. So it appears to me that he's pitching her to buy the rights to her book that he hasn't even read yet. I mean, that's the way I read that, right? Yes, please send over an ebook, but I also just purchased it on paperback. It sounds like he hasn't read it yet. He's talking about her reviews. So that's interesting. And, does he have agenda issues? This is the platform that his podcast is based on. Toxic masculinity. He calls himself a feminist. I mean, getting him the rights to this book would be really great for his brand, right? In my opinion. But he hadn't even read it yet, it appears. Then on April 11th of 2019, he follows up and says, "Colleen, I'm finally coming up for air from the release of the film, but still shooting Jane for another 2 weeks." It's Jane the Virgin. By the way, were you able to see it? Would love to know your thoughts. We actually started filming the final episode today. Crazy. So grateful. So again, his series was ending. He needed another gig. Okay. And he's just pitching her to go try and get the rights to her book. Nothing wrong with that. Just pointing it out. So I haven't been able to get It Ends With Us off my mind. Such an important story. So damn romantic and beautiful and tragic and hopeful. Okay, I don't find that book to be romantic at all. Did anybody find it to be romantic? Just only if you've read the book. Tell me if you thought it was romantic. Right. He shades her for never reading the book while they're shooting or before shooting. And he's pitching the book and he hasn't read it. So again, it's like throwing stones, right? Now people think he never read the book. I'm not saying he read the book, because by April he did read the book. In his February email, he says, "I bought the book because I want to support you, but send over an ebook so I can read it." And then that's February. And then by April, he had read it because now he's talking about it. Right? So this is 2019, April 2019. Right. And Need Some Z says, "If he's the director, Blake has no right to bully her way into taking it over. Then why didn't he tell her no?" Danielle points out, if he was the director, he had the power not to let her do it. Right. I mean, look, there's two sides to every story. I'm not invested in either one. But I didn't find the book to be romantic. Where was I? I always say that both in art and life, all the best stories are always two beautiful things at once. And this is so much what your book is: joy and pain, love and sorrow. You did such a beautiful job of covering incredibly difficult subject matter and playing it out in a realistic and unforgettable way. But what I love the most is the opportunity to let so many women feel seen on the screen via this particular story. I can't even imagine how many women there are who are stuck in a relationship like this, and via this story could find the strength to create a better life for themselves and for their children. There are so many opportunities to partner with organizations and create impact with a story like this. I love that you had held nothing back from the pain of Lily and Ryle's past. I love that they really are no, quote, bad guys, end quote, and that we are the sons of our experiences and our trauma. I love the opportunity for narration and the stunning and gorgeous impact of the title payoff at the end. These are the kind of stories that change and save lives, and I believe this story in particular can continue to have a huge impact on the world. So if you will have me, I would love to option it from you. On a separate note, the screenplay for 5 Feet Apart was adapted into a novel, and it has been on the New York Times bestseller list since before the release of the movie last month. I know you have your charity, and I'd be happy to donate some signed copies for the bookworm box. Let me know what you think. Much love, Justin. So, I mean, he's pitching himself. There's nothing wrong with that. And I just did not find the book to be romantic. I also did not find that there were no bad guys in the book. I found him to be a terribly bad guy. I also found that in the cut of the movie that eventually aired, I found it to be very confusing during the scenes that were supposed to reflect the DV in the relationship, like the scene where she's pulling the pan out of the oven, or he's pulling the pan out of the oven and he burns his hand and he whacks her. Like, the way that it was edited, you really didn't know what was going on. And I guess that was part of the point. When he pushed her down the stairs, you didn't know. And I mean, I feel like it was not as clear as it could have been. And I feel like if the message of the movie, if that's really the message of the movie, I don't feel like it was really, I didn't think the cut was great. So if that was her cut, I didn't think it was a great cut. But Sony wanted it, apparently. And I guess it was better than the cut that he cut. Maybe. I don't know. He says his tested better, but we'll get to that. Yeah, there are no bad guys, right? And Colleen Hoover says, in April of 2019, to Justin, thank you so much for the email. I wasn't expecting you to read it so quickly. I would love to talk with you more about the project. You get the book, and that's the most important thing to me. My big fear is that I'll option it to someone who thinks it's a hot romance, and they'll take it in the absolute wrong direction. I'm going to be upfront with you about a couple things so you can decide if you want to move forward. And then she goes on to tell about a bad story that happened to her where she sold another film and they put up a GoFundMe and all of her readers donated to the GoFundMe. And then the movie never got made. And she wants to make sure this is not going to be crowdfunded because she let her viewers down. And then she says, it ends with us as important to me, though. I would love more involvement on this film. I've actually been working on a script for it already, along with a producer friend of mine who lives in LA. Her name is Blank, and she's a very dear friend of mine and is a huge fan and supporter of this book. We sat down for a week and outlined it last month, but I had to put a pause on it because I'm on deadline for this book that I'm writing. We planned on picking it back up in 2 weeks and diving into it. Even though I'm the author, I believe I've been able to separate myself enough from the format of the book to know what would make the best setup for the film. While I do want to please the readers who have read the book, I understand the need to make a film that will equally touch those who haven't read the book. Are you based out of LA? Maybe we can meet and have a chat about our vision for the film to make sure we're on the same page. I'm based out of Texas, but I'm in LA a lot. Other than ensuring my readers won't be asked to donate to the fundraising for a film and hoping to have more involvement in the process when it comes to the script and production, I don't really have any other requests. I realize your experiences with film far outweighs mine, and based on the magnificent adaptation you did of 5 Feet Apart, I'm confident you could do this book justice and that our visions will align. And then she said, I think you did a great job with the movie and the book that you gave me about cystic fibrosis, and on and on and on and on and on. And I'll just scroll through slowly in case you want to read it all for yourself. She says, I feel good about this, though. I feel good about you. I've seen your past work, your passion, and your love for humanity, and I honestly feel there's no one better for the project. Before I direct you to my agent, I just want to get your thoughts on the above. Thanks so much, Justin. I hope you and the family are able to get some vacation time in. And then he attaches an email from Colleen to Justin that says, have you given any thought to whether you would want an acting role in the film? Say maybe Ryle? I could see it. And I don't know if there's part of it cut off, but you can see there's no closing like there is here where she signs her name, Colleen. There's nothing. There's just the rest of the page is blank. So I'm not sure if that's taken out of context. There was other things in that email. I have no idea. I mean, look, evidence is often cherry picked for purposes of the complaint. And then later on, it comes out how much more there was, like those text messages that people are pointing out. Blake Lively may have cherry picked some text messages, and now they're going to show more of the text message chain. And are they open to interpretation, or are they 100% clear? It's for a jury to decide. So that was April 11th. And then apparently on April 12th, the next day, she's suggesting that he play Ryle. Law Junkie says, my young daughter said at the end of the movie, wait, so she was really abused? I thought they were accidents. That is what the movie showed. That hit hard. Women wonder that all the time. Not good. I agree. I agree. I agree. I think the message was kind of lost. Right, exactly. So there's that. Soon after, Wayfair partnered with Sony to co-finance the film. 1% of the profits were supposed to go to the organization No More. As they began making the film, Baldoni and Wayfair felt an immense responsibility to do justice not only to the story of protagonist Lily Bloom, but to the stories of survivors around the world. And they have high hopes for their film, and they go on to pat themselves on the back. In casting Blake Lively, a world-renowned actor with talent and charisma, in the leading role, they entrusted her with that vision to bring Lily to life. Although Wayfarer learned that Lively had a reputation for being difficult to work with, Baldoni at the time was not dissuaded and found her to be genuine. Right. And she's also a huge box office draw. We can't overlook that. So he's saying he knew before he hired her that she had a reputation for being difficult to work with, but he didn't care about that. He thought she was genuine, and he decided to hire her anyway. And then they point out in their footnotes that stunningly later in the process, Lively refused the opportunity to meet with No More, the organization, the DV organization, despite playing the lead role in a movie centered on themes of survival and resilience in the face of DV. But there's no receipt for that. So I don't know. It's hard to figure out. During pre-production, Baldoni and Lively began a promising and close collaboration. So on December 31st, 2022, Lively agreed to take the role of Lily Bloom. Okay, well, that's interesting because 2 years to the date, on that anniversary, New Year's Eve of 2024, that's when Justin filed his complaint against the New York Times. The irony is not lost. So let's see. Blake agrees to take the role. As part of the subsequent negotiations, Lively was granted an executive producer credit, a title often given to talent of her stature. So they gave her an executive producer credit. But they point out Lively had requested a producer credit, but Wayfair and Sony demurred, given that such a title would not accurately reflect the role she was asked to play in the production. Wayfarer did not request nor require that Lively contribute to the film in any capacity beyond her roles as an actor and executive producer. Meaning we didn't ask her for money. In the beginning, it appeared that Baldoni and Lively would have a positive, collaborative, creative partnership. Baldoni and Lively worked closely in the early days of the film, trading ideas about filling key roles in the film's cast and crew. Their working relationship grew close. Baldoni and Lively shared stories and pictures from their lives, commiserated over family illnesses, and exchanged jokes and memes. Baldoni offered concern and support when Lively faced family health concerns. They texted almost daily, and a friendly banter established a comfortable dynamic that under typical circumstances would have made working together easy. Lively even felt comfortable enough to make silly jokes, redirecting a sweet compliment Baldoni gave. Okay, sweet. This is how sweet Baldoni is. Let's see if we can see the dates on these. All right, so this is May 11th, 23. So 5 months later, 5 months after she agrees to take the part, he says, fist bump, well played. Blake says, I feel the same. It's such a good feeling to get work done that we're proud of and to do it together. It just clicks when we find it. And that's just as rewarding as filming it or editing it or marketing it or releasing it. This is all storytelling. This is why we do it. Thank you for your collaboration. I'm really proud of what we're doing. And he says, or he loved the I feel the same comment. And he says, I like sentimental Blake. And she says, never met her. And he says, I also like a-hole Blake. Don't worry. And then he says, okay, good night. 5/11/23. Is this at 2:47 in the morning? I don't know. And then she says, I've met her. So have my suppositories. Good night. And he laughed at that comment. He's putting this in here to show she joked about suppositories. Therefore, the things that I joked at shouldn't have offended her. This was the nature of their relationship, which made Lively's later allegations all the more baffling. Next section, Lively begins asserting control almost immediately. Almost immediately, Lively began inserting herself into the production process in intrusive ways well beyond the scope of her contractual entitlements. For example, Lively began to insist on creative control over her character's wardrobe. First of all, I also want to point out, I thought her wardrobe in this film was horrible. I thought it was horrible. Horrible. And I couldn't believe that any of this stuff came out of her closet. Let me know what you think. I thought it was very frumpy. I thought they made her look very frumpy. Nothing that she wore in this film was flattering, in my opinion. So I was interested to read this. Hang on one second while I take a drink, because my misophonia friends will be offended by my swallowing. So hold on. Yeah, Danielle, I am going to delete that, because that person has been so horrible to me. So horrible to me. I don't even know her or who she is or what she looks like. That name shall not be named. The answer is I don't know. I don't care. And there's that. All right. So yeah, they shouldn't have let her take over the wardrobe. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't really know how much of this is true. The wardrobe was horrible, but the character in the bush doesn't scream fashionista. Although the younger version of Lily, I thought, was dressed kind of cool, right? Emily said it reads like a scriptwriter wrote it, not a lawyer. That's exactly what I was saying too. It reads like a novel. It reads more like a really interesting novel. So I put in my ASMR voice. ASMR voice. That's why I want to read a lot of it to you, because a lot of times, I mean, I like to read documents anyway, so that we get a better feel for it. But if I just sat here and summarized it for you and you hadn't read it, you wouldn't get a feeling for what I think they're trying to do here. This is more of a story. This is a story. They're telling it in a storytelling way. They're not telling it in the way that legal pleadings are typically drafted. So thank you for pointing that out, because I agree. Terrible wardrobe. All right, you guys are with me on this. Thank you, Robin Rowe. So besides putting on a great and enjoyable show, Melanie's opinion is the reason I watch. I love Mel's opinion. I love it even more when we share the same opinion. Thanks. Yeah, somebody says, oh my God, they're just like they raided somebody's grandmother's hippies closet. Yes. Yes. And I didn't feel like the book showed her in that way, you know? And also the hair. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there were some Louboutins in there, which Lily Bloom would not have been able to afford. Agreed. All right. So we're getting into wardrobe here. While lead actors are sometimes granted approval over the character's general look, they generally do not receive full control over wardrobe decisions without input from the director or producers. What may seem like an innocuous request can in fact have monumental impact on a film's production. Exactly. Thanks, Yuri's math teacher. We're doing a distraction live and folks lose their mind. Save your passion for murder trials. This is for fun. Save your passion for when I do the fire shows. I've already done 2 of them. Told you how to help, how horrific it is, what you can do to help. This is a distraction stream. And also, I'm being advised by my amazing paralegal behind the scenes that Dr. Turk has made a motion for change of venue, but we can cover that later. And of course, if the SJC decision comes in on Karen Reed, which I don't think it has yet, but it's Friday, so who knows what could happen. Although there's 4,000 unread emails here, so just let me say no, not yet. Okay. Right. Her clothes in the movie were not Lily Bloom in the book. I agree. But again, I need testimony on this. I need to hear from need to hear from the costume designer. Ignoring the director's vision for her character and disposing of the weeks of effort and creativity spent by the wardrobe team on shopping and carefully crafting her wardrobe, Lively sent hundreds of images to the film's costume designer, including into the late hours of the evening, depicting the style of wardrobe she wanted for her character. All right, so now they're throwing shade on her because she was sending emails too late at night. Is there a cutoff for emails? Are we supposed to not send emails for 8 o'clock? Remember when everyone had like a house phone line? I'm gonna Gen X myself right now. Everyone had a home phone, and people you'd be like, yeah, there's a cutoff. You can't call anybody after 8 o'clock or after 9 o'clock. There's a cutoff. Is there a cutoff for emails now too? I don't know. Please tell me if there is, because I didn't know that. The costume designer had to reshop Lively's wardrobe, far exceeding the allocated budget and diverting time and resources while also preparing wardrobe for the rest of the cast. At one point, Lively insisted that her character had money and could afford $5,000 shoes, despite being a fledgling small business owner. This forced Baldoni to rethink the entire script that had been in the works for well over a year and was approved by both Sony and Wayfarer, a script that Wayfarer had commissioned multiple drafts of and incorporated countless notes, including input from the book's author, Colleen Hoover. The wardrobe budget ballooned. So again, this is like he's talking about how this forced Baldoni to rethink the entire script. It's like causing more work for him. But again, it's like his feelings are hurt because now it's causing more work for him. He has to rethink the entire script. But again, he says that he knew she was hard to work with and he agreed to work with her. I wonder how much they paid her for this movie. I don't know. How much of the $25 million budget went to her salary? Right. No calls after 10 p.m. That's what I was told growing up. Yep. Remember call waiting? I still have a landline, so Sheila. Okay. Calling after 10 was rude. Yeah. So biased analysis. You should not support Blake because she's a female. I'm out. Okay, well, first of all, goodbye. Second of all, if you watched from the beginning, I said I don't really care for either side. I'm pointing out the pros or the positives and the negatives of each side. And as we read this, I'm going through and telling you what Blake said in her pleading. So if you don't like my analysis, toodaloo, ta. I don't care. I just don't care. But like to pop in and wait 20 minutes, because I think I have this on a 20-minute troll time, to wait 20 minutes after subscribing to leave a comment like that in the chat It's just silly. It's just silly. Yeah, stop saying it's about hurt feelings. I feel like it is about the way this reads to me. It sounds like, in my opinion, his feelings are hurt. But we'll go on and we'll get to more of that anyway. So there's that. Right. And now the legal document makes it seem like it's about hurt feelings. That's the issue. That is the issue that I'm pointing out. Exactly. All right. Lively often refused to participate in wardrobe fittings at the production office, which was a mere 15 minutes from Lively's home. Instead, she insisted that the costume department pack up wardrobe and deliver it to her personal residence. Again, anybody here in the industry? Is this something that is commonly done? Where an A-lister like Blake Lively may not have to schlep down to the warehouse to do her fitting, that they may do the fitting in her house? I don't know. I submit to you that, yeah, it's done a lot. And does this make her, again, it's all her fault because she asked them to bring the wardrobe to her house. Loading the wardrobe department on trucks and delivering the contents to Lively's home in the middle of congested Manhattan for fittings costs time and money, always in short supply on any major film. Requests of this nature are typically made during contract negotiations. Since Lively made no such request at the time, this added expense was not included in the budget. Lively, who had a greater obligation to the studios as an executive producer, paid no heed to budget constraints, let alone the months of planning that had already been completed. It is not an airport. That's right. You don't need to announce your departure. It's not an airport. It's not an airport. Thanks. Thanks, Law Junkie. I know. You disagree with me. We disagree respectfully. I don't have to make you change your opinion. You don't have to make me change mine. But I really don't have any opinion on this other than pointing out both sides of it. The whole thing should settle. I think everybody should settle. I don't think any of this should ever see the inside of a courtroom. But if it does, we're here for it. All right. Thank you, Luna Bird, for your super sticker. I appreciate you so much. So much. Oh, look, a Pink Swan gifted 5 memberships. So welcome to the 5 new members that have been so nicely gifted by a Pink Swan a little while, about a half an hour ago. I'm late thanking you, but thank you. And Athena says, movie teen relationship was romantic, in my opinion. Oh, you mean the teen part of it? Or you mean with Atlas and Lily? Okay, I could see that. I didn't find it to be romantic between Ryle and Lily at all. So maybe you're right. Yeah. Okay, I'll allow it. Thank you. Thank you, Luna Bird, for your super sticker. Appreciate you. In an effort to maintain harmony at the start of their working relationship and to avoid further delays caused by wardrobe conflicts, Baldoni in the studio reluctantly ceded full control to Lively over her wardrobe. This concession quickly proved regrettable. Well, again, why didn't you just say no to her? I don't know. Why couldn't they just say no? So again, wardrobe. She was a wardrobe bully. On the first day of principal photography, paparazzi captured and published photos of Lively in character wearing her hand-picked wardrobe. These images were widely reported as unflattering and sparked a backlash from Sony. Baldoni received direct criticism from Sony, who voiced serious concerns about the impact of the photos on the film's public reception. Okay, so this is getting into where she claims in her filing that he came into her trailer and was crying, right? And was crying, and he's going to explain his version of what happened. Following these events, Baldoni approached Lively in her trailer to discuss necessary wardrobe adjustments and resetting their relationship to assert his role as director and his need to have approval over her wardrobe. The conversation, while professional, took considerable time and was later grossly misrepresented in Lively's California civil rights complaint, which falsely characterized the exchange as a lengthy outburst that delayed filming and caused the crew to, quote, wait for hours while Baldoni cried in Lively's dressing room. On information and belief, Lively circulated this false account to the New York Times with the intention and result that it be widely published. So this is his interpretation of the events. This conversation did not take hours, and any length of time it took was not because Baldoni cried for hours. In truth, rather than take heed of the concerns of the film's distributor and director, Lively took this time to, among other things, suggest to Baldoni that he was being gaslit by Sony, Heath, and the other producer, and to try and convince him to let her continue to take the helm. Baldoni did briefly become emotional during the conversation, but only in response to what he believed was a genuine compliment from Lively, praising his work as a director and actor. Okay, so he's saying here that he started to cry because Blake complimented him. And here's where I'm having a problem, because he like goes from here to there, from here to there, from here to there. It's like sword and shield, sword and shield. Yeah, I was crying in her trailer, but that's only because she was complimenting me and praising me as a director and actor. And I was so emotional about that I started crying. But she's also a witch. She's also a witch, and she was so hard to work with, and she stole my film, but she was complimenting me. It's like, pick a lane, kind of. I don't know. It's all over the place. In hindsight, this was part and parcel of the ongoing pattern of manipulation and gaslighting by Lively, intended to continue to allow her autonomy over her wardrobe. What kind of people like to use the word gaslighting the best? Anyone? 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 All right, going back to this footnote 6. Notably, Lively herself had voiced insecurities about the public perception of her casting as Lily Bloom. Lily is described as a 23-year-old young woman. See how they say 23-year-old young woman? Isn't 23-year-old young? And recent college graduate within the first few pages of the book. And that is true. That is true. Lily is described, which Lively would have known had she read the book before production. Again, another jab. Despite having admitted to ordering a copy months before, which remarkably, she ordered only after she had already committed to the role on December 20th of 2022. Oh, wait, December 20th or December 31st? So now they backdated it and said she agreed. She committed to the role on December 20th, but, well, so which is it? Nevertheless, when Lively learned that Lily was a decade plus younger than herself in the book, Lively asked that author Colleen Hoover explain in her public casting announcement that they had decided to age up the book's characters for the film. Hoover didn't put the statement out in the way Lively requested. Lively was not happy. Oh boy, now they're going to drag Colleen Hoover into this. Okay. Lively later distorted this conversation in support of her baseless harassment allegations, alleging that Baldoni made inappropriate comments on her appearance. In reality, Baldoni, the film's director, again pointing out that he's the director, was relaying the distributor's concerns on the widespread social media criticism regarding the wardrobe's failure to meet audience expectations, a sentiment Baldoni shared. This incident is just one of the many examples of Lively's troubling pattern of manipulation and lies. So again, not disputing that the crying in her trailer happened, just saying it happened for a different reason. And if only the two of them were there, it's going to take testimony to figure that out. As another example, early in the pre-production stage, Lively sent Baldoni a long text describing how directors never permitted her to write scenes for the movies she acted in, nor gave her writing credits, even making her hand scribble her suggestions for lines so that they could not be traced to her. Okay, again, this is early in the pre-production stage. She's texting him and telling him how she rewrites things everywhere she goes. Everywhere she goes, she's rewriting the lines, and they don't give her credit for it, but she does it. So he's on notice again that she likes to rewrite things. Then Lively asked if she could take a pass at writing the rooftop scene, and It Ends With Us, in which the characters Ryle and Lily first meet. This pivotal scene, much beloved by book fans, was critical for setting the tone for the movie, so Baldoni was reluctant to allow an actor, rather than a union screenwriter, to rewrite this key scene. But Baldoni felt the need to allow Lively to rewrite the scene and agreed to take a look at what she put together. I mean, thank you, Team Brittany. You don't need to be telling people in the chat that they could not have been abused when you don't know. That's a horrible thing to say. Yeah, that is. Because everybody is different. Everybody's experience is different. And so therefore, that will time somebody out. Okay. Thank you, Babs, of 5678. Love your analysis on things. I've learned so much from you. Don't always comment, but I'm here every time you're on. Thank you. Thank you for commenting today. Thank you so much. Welcome. Cyber Chicken Boston, by the way, the rooftop scene was terrible. So there's that. I agree. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. Now I want to go back and read the scene in the book, watch the scene on Netflix, do a comparison. So there's that. So again, he feels the need to allow her to do it, and then he's going to complain when he lets her do it. So it goes on and on and on. He was hesitant about the changes. It was dramatically different. She drafted it. And then he says that she was stung by Baldoni's exceedingly mild resistance. So he says to her, he thanked her for her passion and diplomatically told her the scene would likely end up being somewhere between the original version and Lively's version. And then he says, seemingly stung by Baldoni's exceedingly mild resistance. So she's the one overreacting here, he's saying. Lively did not respond and went silent for multiple days. Dun, dun, dun. She's also guilty because she went silent. Later, she confirmed in a text message below that Baldoni's response, of course, didn't feel great for me. Or, and here's where Taylor gets dragged into this, another mega celebrity friend, which is what they call her here, but then they're going to name her later. So listen, another mega celebrity friend named Ryan Reynolds. Didn't feel great for them either. To have my passion praised instead of my specific contribution. Lively was referring to an earlier meeting where Lively summoned him to her New York penthouse. Of course, they have to throw penthouse in there. Summoned and penthouse, where Baldoni was greeted by Ryan Reynolds, who launched into enthusiastic praise for Lively's version of the scene. Hours later, as the meeting was ending, a famous and famously close friend of Reynolds and Lively walked into the room and similarly began praising Lively's script. And pay attention to this sentence. Baldoni understood the subtext. He needed to comply with Lively's direction for the script. He's admitting right there, nobody said that to him, but that's how he interpreted it. So when he starts talking about extortion and stuff, they're pointing out right here in paragraph 41, Baldoni understood the subtext. He needed to comply with Lively's direction for the script. Just Michael points it out perfectly. There are no victims in these lawsuits, only narcissistic mentalities. Agreed. Look, Cupcake says, Baldoni's a gold digger in my humble opinion. Yeah, pointing out her penthouse. I mean, it sounds, he's a little bit jelly. It sounds a little bit jelly. And it sounds a little bit, my feeling got hurt. You hurt me with your words. In cases the wording in this document is extremely transparent, right? And that's what we're just pointing out here. It's just what we're pointing out here. Oh, look, Moondragon says, the scriptwriter said the one line added was pretty pleased with the cherry on top, which was spoken by Justin, so he agreed to say it. Yar. All right, moving on. Oh, somebody said here, it sounds like he's not great with confrontation. Have you watched his podcast? I've linked it. I think I linked it in the last show. So all you need to do is watch his podcast. And you come to your own conclusions. I'm not going to tell you any conclusions. Okay. Later, Baldoni felt obliged to text Lively to say that he had liked her pages and hadn't needed Reynolds and her mega celebrity friend to pressure him. Okay, so now he's saying, I liked what you wrote, but you didn't need to gang up on me with Ryan and Taylor. So did he like it or he hated it and he felt pressure to use it? Like, it's very contradictory, right? I'm just pointing out the contradictions. Lively responded that the two were her dragons. Lively went on to say, they, parens, Reynolds and the mega celebrity friend, also know I'm not always good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the case of the process. I'm sorry, the ease of the process. It's a very small font. They don't give an S about that. S is the curse word that I don't really use in this channel. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. And they bolded and italicized that sentence. I'll read it again. And because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. Talking about Ryan and Taylor Swift. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. And then there's an I don't know emoji. What is the I don't know emoji? I don't know. I don't know what the I don't know emojis. Is that like the shruggy thing? Okay. The message could not have been clearer. Baldoni was not just dealing with Lively, he was also facing Lively's dragons, two of the most influential and wealthy celebrities in the world who were not afraid to make things very difficult for him. Again, this is his interpretation of that message. Someone else may interpret that message as saying, I have some really good, my husband and my good friend Taylor Swift, who is the most successful woman, I think, in music ever, are my cheerleaders. And I'm so lucky to have such a great support system. It could be interpreted in different ways. But he's saying the message could not have been clearer. That's what he took away from it. What was the date on that? I don't think there's a date on that. Okay. Well, so this is 4/14/23, their text messages. Blake says, if you send me the FDX, I'll work when I can steal moments. And yes, of course, please send to Christy. We're all on the same team with the same goal. Justin replies, great. Also was working on rooftop scene today. I really love what you did. It really does help a lot. Makes it so much more fun and interesting. And then he says in parens, and I would have felt that way without Ryan and Taylor. So there he is. He's naming her. Mega celebrity friend is right here in the text. People are saying that. People are interpreting this as being as Taylor Swift. No, it says right there, Taylor. With a winky emoji. You really are a talent across the board. Really excited and grateful to do this together. This was April 14th. She says, Blake says, that's very appreciated. It means a lot. I'm deeply inspired by the film we're going to make outside of the success of the book. We have such an opportunity to not only surprise people who love the book, but also reach an even bigger audience by making an undeniably dynamic and also commercial film. The moment that excited me the most the other day was when you said you're not funny. You are going to kill that rooftop scene, period, after each word. You know it, I'm sure. Even though it was said in playful self-deprecation that we all participate in, it made me think of the process as a whole. Please know I trust that on the day you've got me, and I hope that you trust that I've got you if you want it. We're in this together, and we are two of the most determined people I know. We also have very high bars set for ourselves. To collaborate with that type of partner is a gift that neither of us will squander because we both care too much about the result and also the experience. I have no motives except for you to win. As a director, as an actor, as a studio, as a writer. If you win, I win. If you win, our movie wins. We are aligned, and I will bring everything I have to this. Okay. And then it points out, and then Blake says, is this the same day? Maybe it's the next day. 4/15. As for blank and Ryan and blank, this time it was redacted. Blank for that matter. I'm the luckiest mother ducker on the planet to have them as my dance mom level stage moms. They are embarrassingly effusive. That said, they're also my most trusted partners and the people I go to first with anything creative I touch. And I'm the person they each go to first. That reciprocal creativity and support has always been one of my life's greatest and most fulfilling gifts. When they loved and signed off on the pages, I felt good to send them to you. They asked what you thought specifically after. They checked in so many times. I told them that you laughed a bunch and said it's probably a blend, but you appreciate my passion so much, which of course didn't feel great for me or them to have my passion be praised instead of any specific contribution, or even just that you didn't like the pages, which was fine also. So I think they wanted you and me to see how they felt about the work because they've been by my side for far too many experiences where I've been overlooked. I spoke to you about this when we first met. They've watched me handwrite scripts because the director is too afraid to send the FDX file, yet he scans and has someone hand type all 120 pages of my pencil rewrites. They've watched me be hired as a writer and paid a significant fee for it, but on the condition that I never ask for credit, which I could give an S about. It's more the principle of the dynamic at play. They've watched the other side of it too, where I'm told at signing on that I'm wanted as a true collaborator, but once we get to work, I'm really just wanted as a yes man, audience, and actor. Both Ryan and, I'm assuming that says T, have established themselves as absolute titans, as writers and storytellers outside of their primary gig, just singing or just acting or blank, just directing. I'm so lucky to have them as creative barometers, but also to have them as the people who prop me up and make sure I'm seen for all I can and do offer, because they know firsthand all I contribute. They also know I'm not always as good at making sure I'm seen and utilized for the fear of threatening egos or fear of affecting the ease of the process. They don't give an S about that. Because of that, everyone listens to them with immense respect and enthusiasm. So I guess I have to stop worrying about people liking me. I mean, that doesn't sound like it's very threatening to me, but that's just my interpretation. If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi, and like her, I happen to have a few dragons. For better or worse, but usually for better, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine with like a smiling lipstick emoji. You will too, I can promise you. So there's that. People are making a big deal that she's comparing herself to Khaleesi from Game of Thrones. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good headline, though. Let me know what you think. Big old dog's like, you mean movies are narcissistic? No. Bentley says, I was going to say, this doesn't sound super threatening so far. I mean, it's his interpretation. And Jane Ann, New Jersey Nancy, coming in hot. If Lively were, say, George Clooney, I believe everything would be interpreted differently. Kate's not seeing the threat. Libby Looky Lou is saying it's not proof of anything except extreme cringe. Lively being basic is not a crime. Hi, Lori. Peace. Donnie Not Wahlberg says, how weird. So there's that. Okay. Difficult proved to be a gross understatement. Though Baldoni initially invited Lively to make changes to the script, Lively began altering the script daily. Well, dude, I mean, she warned you that that's what she does. He was on notice of this. I don't know. The frequency of Lively's revisions alarmed the producers, director, and studio, who anticipated that her interference would persist every day of the shoot and disrupt the carefully planned production schedule. Each shooting day was intricately scheduled long in advance, and Lively's constant changes placed significant stress on the production crew, not to mention financial strain on Wayfarer. And here they have some text messages from May of 2023 between a producer whose name they've redacted and Jamie Heath. Producer says, are you listening to this? She's fixing the script. I think Angie's advice was actually wrong. Blake is now directing the movie. This is bad. Jamie Heath says, I'm listening. Talking through it is better than not, seeing what's possible, as long as any decision is done with approval. Producer says, not for something that was already intimately planned. This will be every day of the shoot. Jamie says, I know. I'm not sure what can be done, honestly, at this point in terms of Blake. But there's a portion like that we can't really read there. More than a year later, during a red carpet interview with the New York film premiere, Lively stated, the iconic rooftop scene, my husband actually wrote it. Nobody knows that, but you now. So apparently she was alleging that Ryan actually wrote the scene, and this seems to be a big deal for a lot of people who are putting out short clips of their opinion on this case. This startling revelation directly contradicted Lively's previous insistence that she had written the scene, certainly cast Reynolds high praise for the rewritten scene in a different light. The film's credited screenwriter, when asked about the claim that Ryan Reynolds had written the scene, graciously responded, so if I'm being told that Ryan wrote that, then great, how wonderful. She went on to acknowledge there were a few little flourishes that I did not write, and if those flourishes came from Ryan, I think that's wonderful. This was also the first time that the plaintiffs learned that Reynolds, who had no formal role whatsoever in the film's production, had made unauthorized changes to the script in secret. Baldoni, equally blindsided by this news, which he discovered in real time during a recorded interview with Access Hollywood, reacted by also praising Reynolds so as to not harm Lively. Reynolds, who apparently wrote the scene, and possibly others during the WGA strike or the film. Lively's remarks about Reynolds' purported contribution to the script raised eyebrows sky high at Sony, who told Wayfair that they certainly needed some clarity on public comments made about Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing to writing services for the rooftop scene. And that was, they're citing an article from People magazine. And here they attach an email from Sony Legal Affairs to Wayfair attorney. The subject is, it ends with us, Ryan Reynolds writing issue. Hi, blank. We certainly need some clarity on public comments made about Ryan Reynolds potentially contributing writing services for the rooftop scene. Can you provide additional information on this? As there are no contracts, his services are not in the chain, nor is his name anywhere in the credits. One of the many media reports which cite this claim made by Blake Lively is this People magazine article. Thanks for clarifying. If services were rendered, obviously we require signed documentation immediately. And then from the Wayfair team to Sony Legal Affairs. Hello, your email was shared with me by blank in order to address the issue. We are not aware of any writing services rendered by Ryan Reynolds, regardless of what is being said publicly. This is not something that we are aware of. We are learning about these allegations in real time. Please let me know if you have any questions. I mean, it seems like it's a legal issue. They wanted to give him credit for it. I don't know. Again, here we go. Still during the pre-production phase, Lively and Reynolds raised entirely false allegations of fat shaming against Baldoni, an accusation that, as evidence will show, was categorically false. Baldoni had been introduced to the trainer, Don, who became Baldoni's personal trainer, by Lively. Don directed Baldoni's preparation for the film role, including his nutrition and exercise, making special accommodations for Baldoni's back injury. Baldoni even paid to receive Don's meal delivery service. Like, why is that even in there? Baldoni even paid to receive Don's meal delivery service? Like, I even threw the guy a bone. She recommended me to this trainer, and I even made him my trainer, my personal trainer. Then I even bought his meal delivery service. So I don't know why that's in there, but here are some text messages between Don, the personal trainer, and Justin, and this is in February of 2023. So again, this is jumping back in time. We were just talking about April and May of 2023. This jumps back to February. Don, the personal trainer, says to Justin, okay, speak to you later. I can get you a program this week. Justin says, sure, just got to New York City for the day. February 21st, hey, bud, tried you, 10 p.m. Is it after the cutoff? Don says, call you in a few. And he says, cool, standing by. And then on February 26th, he sends him the program in Dropbox form. And he says, here you go, the trainer, 4 things. And talks about the jumps, the rows, stay out of lumbar extension because of your back, blah, blah, blah. Amazing, can't wait to check it out. Thank you, says Justin. Privately, Baldoni reached out to Don as his personal trainer to ask what Lively weighed so that he could train his back muscles in preparation for a lift scene. Okay, so he's not denying it. He's saying he did. He did reach out to Don to ask how much Blake weighed so he could train his back muscles in preparation for this lift scene. This is what Blake interprets as fat shaming. He's saying it was because of my bad back. And then they go on to say this was important to avoid injury not only to Baldoni, who suffered from lifelong back injuries, multiple bulging discs, and chronic pain, but also to Lively if the lift could not be completed successfully and safely. Notwithstanding Lively's recent attempts to deny the existence of any such scene, it was only nixed at her insistence after having been planned and rehearsed. So they're saying there was a lift scene. She's the one who wanted to cut it. We rehearsed it. We planned it. She wanted it cut. The next morning, Baldoni was summoned to the penthouse. Again, he was summoned to the penthouse by Lively and greeted by Reynolds, who swore at Baldoni and accused him of fat shaming his wife. How dare you ducking ask about my wife's weight? What is wrong with you? The confrontation from Reynolds and Lively was so aggressive that Baldoni felt he had no choice but to offer repeated and completely unwarranted apologies. All right, so he's saying he did apologize, but he was not really apologizing because he really didn't do it. For what was a good faith and reasonable question to ask of his trainer. Reynolds demanded Baldoni remove the scene entirely. Okay, so now he's saying that Ryan's the one who told him to cut the scene. Lively refused to perform the lift scene in the end, even after it was rehearsed with a stunt double. In her own complaint, Lively flat out lies about the absence of this scene by claiming the scene wasn't in the film. Well, that's not really a lie if the scene was cut, right? The only reason the scene wasn't in the film is because Lively and Reynolds ensured it was taken out of the film. So that's not really a lie. It wasn't in the film in the end. I don't know. Accommodating Lively, Baldoni rewrote the scene with Lively, despite the fact that for creative reasons, the scene was important to him as a storyteller and a director. In fact, Lively had earlier expressed insecurity about her postpartum figure, and Baldoni made every attempt to genuinely reassure her. It wasn't me, it was her. In this exchange, he stated, as her director, that anything you feel insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress out about your body. It's the last thing you need. When he later tried to do just that, Lively responded with allegations of sexual harassment, followed by a lawsuit. And again, this is going back in time to February 2023. Anybody know when the baby was born? I mean, she says here, kicking ass, but it's still a ton of work with not a ton of time. What's the chance we can do body scenes at the end of the schedule? She's like, I want to try and lose the weight. This is February of 2023. Remember that because of the writer's strike, the SAG strike, this movie wouldn't go back into production until like, I think the beginning of 2024. So there was a whole year. What happened in reality, right? And he says, I'm sure you are. Honestly, there's 1 billion moving parts to schedule right now. I just turned in the rewrite. And so they are hard at work. So much of it comes down to locations and the other cast availability, et cetera. So to be really honest, I have no clue. I want you to know you will look amazing. Anything you are insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need. As soon as I have a rough schedule that's even remotely accurate, I'll share it and make sure the team keeps this in mind as well. Munchell, this is fully he said, she said. Give me what they said because I don't trust the egos of those two, both of them. I'm with you on that one. And she says, Blake says, thank you for your voice memo. It is deeply appreciated. You are everything you promised to be as a collaborator. Thank you. I know my job here, and this piece is in big part my job here. And she means losing the baby weight, this piece. We both understand the assignment as actors in the roles, but also as producers and also as marketers. We understand artistically, yes, but we get what we need to do in all aspects for this movie commercially. As woke as we both are and work to be, this movie requires a certain aesthetic. It's a part of the job that we both excitedly signed up for. I don't shy away from it because it's not problematic. It's the assignment. Like when someone is about to start an athletic event, it's their job to be in top shape. My husband and I both look at certain roles as athletic events, and that's one of them. This is one of them. It's not always a part of the job, but on this one, it is, and that's great. As much as I'd love to not think about it, that would be irresponsible and also impossible because it's unrealistic to not acknowledge what I need to do. This is my job here, and I meet my responsibilities with extreme work ethic. I look for solutions to achieve my high goals instead of lowering my goals. We all win when we're each firing at our highest capabilities, and you and I both are, and I will continue to. I just need as much time as possible because I just had my 4th baby. I understand that you'll never personally know all the nuances of the challenges unless you live this physical moment in time I'm in with this physical road ahead. So having your understanding and support to help me pull this off is critical and very, very appreciated. Not just in my experience now, but also headed from healing from experiences past. So thank you. We're going to kill it and be so fit. They have to Lola us to look less banging. Lively then delivered an ultimatum. If Baldoni could not get on board with her work methods, he had 2 weeks to recast her. Okay, so here it is. He had 2 weeks to recast her. So was that in February? It's not really clear. Is this after the text messages in February 2023? And where's the receipt on that? Where's the receipt that says, if you're not getting on board, you got 2 weeks to recast me? See, I don't have a receipt on that. So it's hard because we don't know when it is. And then again, he says implicit in this ultimatum was a threat to destroy Baldoni's reputation and career. As Lively well knew, Baldoni had worked hard throughout his career to earn and deserve a reputation based on his passionate advocacy for women's rights, a reputation she would later exploit and weaponize against him. If Lively were to back out of the film, especially based on accusations of fat shaming, Baldoni's reputation and life's work would be left in tatters. He had no choice but to bow to Lively and Reynolds' demands. Concerns about Lively's undue influence over the film began to grow even before filming started. So filming hadn't even started yet? And he could have recast her and he didn't? He made the choice to continue even though he knew that they were going to try and destroy him later on? I mean, that's what I'm reading here. And where's the receipt on that? If you don't get on board with my work method, you're going to have 2 weeks to recast me. I don't know. Lori's like, Baldoni be on his hands and knees and he's begging Lively and Reynolds to let him join the sequel. Oh my God. Lindsay says, implicit, that was a nice text. And he's the one that cast her for the role, knowing she was pregnant at the time. Plus, I find it odd that he even cast her in the first place. Right? I mean, I don't know. Emmy doesn't see anything remotely threatening. Please, sir, just a little more. None of your business. And then here's some more text messages in April of 2023 between the producer and Jamie. And the producer saying he cannot let her have opinions on everything. Blake? Or she's going to be co-directing the film. Yes. Yeah, we were talking about that a lot yesterday. So this had been going on for a long time. Apparently 23 and then in 24, allegedly around August, around the release of the film, is when Blake says that his PR team made a concerted effort to astroturf her reputation into being a terrible person. And then they say this was not the first time. This was the first time Lively openly moved to seize control of the film from Baldoni, but it would not be the last. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, filming begins as Lively builds her takeover strategy. Principal photography began for the film in early May of 2023. On set, Lively continued to maintain what later to appear a facade of a close, caring relationship with Baldoni. She goes on, they have some text messages of her saying, I'm so excited, so grateful. This is such a great journey that we're going on together. She keeps talking. Then he says here, oh, this is interesting. Throughout the filming period, Lively continued to share her open and unguarded thoughts on life and her character. She talked about wardrobe choices to make her character, quote, much sexier. Here's the text. Oh, will you show both ways because, wait, will you show both ways, but beanie, oh, wait. Okay. We'll show you both ways, but the beanie is so much sexier. It's the look, feels TV without, especially with a crop top in the snow. It justifies the rest of the skin. And also is a girl I would check out walking down the street because it washes the effort off the rest of the look. She's talking about a beanie, like a hat. Isn't the beanie a hat? The hat made it so much sexier. So he's saying, just because Heath, I think it was Heath, who showed her a video of his wife's home birth in a hot tub or I don't know, something, that is okay because she was talking about making it sexier by putting a beanie on the character. Lively continued to express her warm appreciation and respect for Baldoni as filming continued, even as she acknowledged she could be difficult and critical of others, using the kind of language she herself would have alleged to be inappropriate. This is May 23rd, 2023. Justin says, I'm not going to tell you that you were amazing because you tease me for being so sentimental, but you were amazing today. And Blake responds, thank you. I do appreciate it. I'm just a ball buster, but it means a lot to me. I care a great deal, and I always want to deliver. You were terrific. I'm proud of everything we did today, but really every day. And Justin loved that comment and then said, thank you with the prayer hands emoji. And then their footnote says, Lively's use of the word ball buster would certainly have made it on her 17-point list had it been Baldoni who said it. Let me know what you think. Lively's intimate comfort with Baldoni continued as filming progressed. I didn't find that to be very intimate, did you? In June of 23, after the alleged harassment and uncomfortable situations allegedly occurred, she even invited Baldoni to her trailer to rehearse while pumping breast milk. Okay, that's true. But again, later in the document, they say when she was pumping, she was always covered. She was always fully covered. And her text says, I'm just pumping in my trailer if you want to work out our lines. Lively was so close and comfortable with Baldoni that she freely breastfed in front of him during meetings. She took photos of him holding and soothing her crying baby in her penthouse. Footnote 9. Out of respect for Lively's privacy, this complaint does not include any images of her family. Erin, thank you for pointing this out. Tired of seeing people say she should have just quit, and that makes her guilty? I think it shows her integrity and care for the other actors and the writer and all involved. Right? There was a cast and crew of hundreds who had been through strikes, writer's strike, actor's strike, the panty, which had a lot of people out of work. Thank you. Thank you, Erin, for your comment. And then this goes on to say, they laughed deliriously during late night writing sessions. I mean, this is kind of making it seem like they had an inappropriate relationship. I don't know if they're trying to make it sound that way, but late night writing sessions, she's breastfeeding in front of him. They were putting that word intimate in that sentence where it really didn't belong. All of these events took place after the alleged sexual harassment. Lively's accusations seemed to come out of the blue. Here it is. Wait for it. Wait for it. Paragraph 60. She even knew his tea order. She knew his tea order. That's how intimate they were, because in the next text message, my friends, Justin says, I'm en route to you. Blake says, no, all good. Thank you, though. I'm getting you a hot matcha. And do you know what Brandon likes? Holy matcha. He knew that he liked matcha. That's how intimate they were. Even I love matcha too, because my buy me a coffee thing, I'll put the QR code up there for you, is buy me a matcha latte, because I love matcha too. Yeah, his tea order, that changes everything. That's how intimate they were. Matcha, Emmy, it's matcha, hot matcha. Lively herself set the tone for personal discussions on set, including what language was acceptable. For example, on one occasion while filming a restaurant scene, Lively sat on the floor in painfully expensive shoes while discussing with a group of male cast and crew how sexy her shoes were. And then footnote 10 says, this is evidenced in film footage captured between scene takes. Lively had no issue using the word sexy herself, but apparently took note. Both times, Baldoni said the word in her presence. Though she was loose and relaxed in her speech on set, she was increasingly stringent in the demands she imposed on the productions. She rewrote her own dialogue constantly, took it upon herself to make unilateral changes to other characters' lines, effectively rewriting the script day by day. And again, this pattern of domineering interference caused unending interruptions to the production process, leading to entirely unnecessary stress, chaos, and delays. It is well documented on film footage how frequently she requested changes and how at every turn, Baldoni took her thoughts And out of the fear of repercussions from Lively and her allies, he consistently tried to accommodate them. So again, he's painting himself as the hero because he put up with it, even though she kept rewriting the script. And he had the opportunity to get rid of her, I think, before principal photography even began. And he didn't want to do it. I don't know. And here we are. During labor strikes, Lively moves to seize absolute power. On May 2nd, 2023, the writers' strike happened. Hold on, May 2nd. The WGA, the Writers Guild of America. Production on the film halted temporarily on June 14th due to the WGA picketing. The next day, the production was notified that the WGA had agreed to not picket their set, allowing the production to continue. Yeah, but a lot of actors did not want to cross that picket line. But Lively was already gone and refused to return to the production immediately. That is because the actors, the SAG members, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, were in solidarity with the writers. And they refused to cross the picket line. But so they're painting her in a bad light because she didn't want to cross the picket line. Wayfair reworked the shooting schedule at great expense to film the scenes with the younger versions of characters instead of footage requiring Lively. Look, a lot of productions shut down during the writer's strike. Nobody was supposed to be rewriting scenes during the writer's strike. But apparently, even though the WGA went on strike on May 2nd, they kept filming until June 14th. Or June 27th, it says. Wayfair reworked the shooting schedule at great expense to film the scenes with the younger versions of the characters instead of footage requiring Lively. On June 27th, 2023, production shut down entirely for the pendency of the strike. All right, so 6/27, they shut down the set. If Blake Lively crossed that picket line, that would have been the headline. So there's that. The SAG-AFTRA strike soon followed, began on July 14th, 2023. To make the most of time during the strike, Baldoni began editing the footage. Okay, so he's editing during the strike. The strike goes on until I think December. So their production had to shut down from June 27th. They'll give me the date here. But as he's still working during the shutdown, he starts editing the film. And then he says she becomes more insistent and manipulative as she asks for access to the dailies and early cuts of scenes, both inappropriate and unorthodox requests. Again, just say no, Justin. Dailies refers to raw footage of what was filmed that day, including the many takes. This is not shared with cast. And then they go on and on and on and on. They had to strategize about how to respond to Lively, which became common practice so as to not trigger backlash from Lively. And again, this goes on for 179 pages. And it says, they rightly feared that giving her the dailies could turn into her demanding to edit the whole movie, which is exactly what ultimately happened. Justin sends a screenshot to his producer that says, hey, would you mind giving me access to the dailies? I'm curious what takes you liked of the scenes you showed Warren. My manager, blank, flew out to visit set and leaves tomorrow a.m. He heard all about it from blank, and I'd love to show him. I appreciate you may be too slammed right now to make this happen, but maybe someone else can facilitate. Thanks so much. And the producer, and he says, thoughts? And the producer says, I'd say no, but check her contract first, LOL. I was waiting for blank to respond first, says Jamie. It's an absolute no for me as well. Respectfully, not sure best way to respond, being how delicate it is. Producer says, I think you can either not respond until tomorrow. I'd say no, but check her contract for all that's all there. And then he says, thank you. Spoke to blank too. I think I'm just going to say yes and send her a playlist of a bunch of good takes from different scenes that last for 3 or 4 days and no. And then the producer says, we all said no and you're going to send them? And he says, no, she liked the idea of a playlist. No to access all dailies. I wasn't clear in text. So this goes on and on and on for many, 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 many more pages. And then it comes out that 2 cuts of the movie were eventually made, one by perhaps the Deadpool editor, I think, and one by Baldoni. And then both were screen tested. And even though Baldoni's tested better, Sony chose to release Blake's cut in the end. So there's that. He felt uncomfortable giving him the scenes, but he did. Let's go to the he goes point by point of all the things that he agreed to in their agreement when they went back filming, and he talks about why each of those points is not accurate. So let's take a look at this. All right. So they're saying that when they went back and they reviewed those terms, she had all these terms for returning to work, remember? A list of demands. So this is to the Wayfair team from... Okay. The WGA strike ended on September 27th, 23, and the SAG-AFTRA strikes ended on November 9th, 2023. Months before, Baldoni had made Lively's representatives aware that they would continue pre-production in order to hit the ground running when the strikes ended. But Lively and her lawyers had been busy devising other plans during the strike. The same day that the SAG-AFTRA strike ended, Baldoni, the studios, and producers were eager to resume production. Instead, they were met with an email from Lively's lawyer, who sent Wayfair an unsettling and unexpected 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. The stunning list was drafted for the apparent purpose of insinuating or outright claiming that Baldoni, Heath, and others had engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct during filming. Nothing could be further from the truth. In an email dated November 9th to the Wayfair team, doesn't say who it's from, though. I guess it's her attorney. Okay. Dear Wayfair team, with the tentative resolution of the SAG-AFTRA strike, we are writing to address how to handle a return to the set of It Ends With Us. It is no surprise to the film's producers that the experience of shooting the film has been deeply concerning on many levels. The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented throughout pre-production and photography. While we reserve all legal rights, at this stage, our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film, as long as the set is safe moving forward. In order for our client to feel safe returning to the production, we are attaching a list of protections that will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film's producers. If the production is unwilling to accept or uphold these protections, our client is prepared to pursue her full legal rights and remedies. This letter is not intended to constitute a full statement of all facts and circumstances relating to this matter. It is not intended to be, nor should it be construed as a waiver, release, or relinquishment of any of our client's rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby expressly reserved. XOXO, Blake's lawyer. Okay, so they redlined it, they sent it back, and then her lawyer said, no, this is not open for negotiation. This is what it is, and if you don't want to sign it, that's it. We're going to pursue other remedies. And then it says, it was clear that Wayfair would have to sign the document as is, despite the falsity of its insinuations. The alternative was to lose millions of dollars, cost hundreds of people their jobs after they had been out of work for months, and destroy their relationship with Sony. Nonetheless, the demands themselves were agreeable. Indeed, some were already in place. So they're saying they did agree to all those things, but again, under protest. And then they say here, to illustrate the distorted and downright fictional basis for the 17-point list of demands, each of them is addressed in turn below. Point 1, intimacy coordinator. Lively demanded that an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when Lively was on set. In fact, an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of the production, so they took no issue with this request itself. And then it says he gave he gave Blake the opportunity to meet with the intimacy coordinator before filming started, and she declined. She said, it's okay, I'll meet her on the day. Okay, well, I don't really see that there's a problem with that, but again. Two sides to every story. This is his side. And then they say, although the presence of an intimacy coordinator is not a Screen Actors Guild rule, but rather a recommendation, Baldoni was eager to engage one from the start to ensure talent, himself included, felt safe during the intimate scenes. I think his beef with that was that she didn't want to meet the intimacy coordinator ahead of time. And he says that she was making it look like there had never been an intimacy coordinator at all. Point 2, limiting review of intimate scene footage to those with essential business reasons. And if you watched part 1 of this, you know what we went over all of these points in the beginning. So their response to this point was, despite having filmed for over a month and despite having been provided a nudity rider and the opportunity to negotiate, finalize, and sign, Lively had never asked for a closed set. However, production had always adhered to this and had no problem agreeing to this demand. For clarity, no intimacy scenes were even shot prior to the return to production demands on November 9th, 2023. Therefore, under no circumstances did Lively shoot intimate scenes without a nudity rider, as suggested in her complaint, and production did not violate any SAG-AFTRA rule. The one simulated nude scene filmed prior to the strike and break, and the November 9, 2023 return to production demands was a scene that Lively wrote, knew of in advance, directed the action for. She never requested a nudity rider or intimacy coordinator for that scene. This demand, as written, suggests nude scenes were filmed with non-essential personnel present. All right, and then they go on to discuss the birthing scene. Later in her complaint, Lively alleges that during a scene, the birthing scene, she was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitalia, and that there were non-essential persons present. And that's in her complaint. This allegation is knowingly false. To begin with, to describe Lively as mostly nude and naked from below the waist is dishonest. Lively was wearing black briefs and a pregnancy suit that covered her midsection, and her top was covered by a hospital gown. Her legal complaint deliberately suggests that she was wearing a small piece of nude fabric glued around her genitalia by stating this is generally what female actors use to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, leaving the reader to believe Lively was only wearing this small fabric. Lively was aware of this birthing scene as she was heavily involved in rewriting the script and gave creative input for this specific scene, even against the director's creative vision. Then they say Lively knowingly and falsely alleges that the film's financier was present during these scenes and insinuates he was watching her nude, which he had no desire to do, they say. He was not even on set during the filming of that scene. He arrived later. And they go on each point by point. There were no spontaneous, point 3 was no spontaneous improvisation of scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex or nudity, which must be choreographed with an intimacy coordinator. And they say that they had meetings about all of this stuff and that she refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator prior to filming, and that they would have meetings, and the meetings often took place at her insistence at Blake and Ryan's home, and often while Ryan was present. To suggest that Baldoni was the one who created this scenario is knowingly false. I think what I'll do is I'll link the entire complaint in the show notes so you can go back and read it for yourself if you so desire. I want to turn to the portion where he talks about being relegated to the basement of the premiere, because that's another point that's getting a lot of press. Oh, well, here's one. When they were researching that the dancing scene where she says that he was whispering in her ear inappropriate things. It says here, while they were filming this scene where they're dancing, Lively, consistently unable to take direction, insisted that she really liked the idea of the characters constantly talking because, as she described, she and her husband like to keep talking and talking and talking. Baldoni, her director, and the film's assistant director, who was directing the scene, disagreed. In an attempt to encourage her to take his direction, Baldoni offered up that he and his wife often where did I find it? I lost my place. He and his wife often just look into each other's eyes silently, to which she responded like sociopaths and laughed. Baldoni laughed and shook it off, while Lively once again started talking about how she and her husband can't not talk. Baldoni said, "I think that's cute," and complimented the couple, to which Lively responded, "I think it's more than cute." Lively continued arguing and tried to direct him for the scene while they were supposed to be in character filming the scene. At some point, Heath and another producer, irritated, called Baldoni aside to express they can't capture the intended shot because Lively wouldn't stop talking. He was instructed. Okay, so now he was instructed. They're saying that they told him, Justin, to somehow get her to stop talking. While there was a brief verbal exchange, Baldoni, heeding the instructor, While there was a brief verbal exchange, Baldoni, heeding the instruction of their assistant director and producers, continued to try and bring them back into character. As they were acting in the montage scene, Lively continued to break character and speak of herself rather than as Lily, which was extremely confusing for Baldoni, who was trying to balance directing the scene with his artistic vision while also acting in character while filming and trying to get Lively to do the same. Right? It sounds like this was too hard for me. I couldn't do it. Again, you took on this job. Lively apologized for the smell of her spray tan and body makeup. Baldoni responded, "It smells good." So he's putting some context around the "it smells good" that he whispered to her, that she claims in her papers. And continued acting, slow dancing as he believed his character would with his partner, which requires some amount of physical touching. Lively took them out of character again and began to joke about Baldoni's nose, which he laughed off and joked in turn, even as Lively joked that he should get plastic surgery. Here's the part about the nose. Lively incorrectly alleges that this scene was filmed without sound. Baldoni was wearing a microphone and the entire exchange is captured on camera. They've got receipts. Any suggestion that this scene was filmed in any manner other than pure professionalism by Baldoni is unequivocally countered with actual evidence. Her allegation of sexual harassment is documented and knowingly fabricated lie. Moreover, it was Lively who engaged in unchoreographed kissing scenes. Once again, captured on camera, exhibits Lively pulling Baldoni in to kiss her. It is clear Lively was initiating unchoreographed kissing. In one take, she pulled Baldoni in and kissed him once, and another twice, and the number of kisses, entirely initiated by Lively, changed at her whim. Baldoni, as a professional actor who, among other roles, played the lead's love interest in television's Jane the Virgin for 5 years for 100 episodes, is like most actors accustomed to rehearsing or filming scenes multiple times, often with variations without needing permission while in character. While Lively now takes issue with any innocuous improvisation Baldoni, as Ryle may have allegedly initiated while in character, Baldoni treated their relationship on camera as professional. Each playing their part, each doing their job. If no one was supposed to improvise, Baldoni would have no way of knowing based on Lively's own actions. Lively demonstrated again and again this was normal and acceptable part of filming romantic scenes. So he claims he has it all on film, and that's great. Then he can bring that up at trial if it ever gets that far. I don't know. I don't know if this will ever see the inside of a courtroom. And then this footnote says, Lively alleges Baldoni inappropriately commented on her physical appearance. It was the other way around. She said he should get a nose job. Monchel says, can I just say something? Maybe they're both at fault. But if he did do sexual misconduct, he should be held accountable, regardless if she's unlikable or not. And I agree with you. I agree with you there. Both things can be true. She can be unlikable. She can be a mean girl. And he may have sexually harassed her on set. Both things can coexist. A lot of people seem to think it's there's no gray. It's all black and white. No shades of gray. Oh, and this is the comment about where he said it will be hot or something like that. And says that she was wearing a onesie. There's that scene where they're all wearing onesies. I think because it's the Bruins, right? Was it like a Bruins game or something? And they're all wearing onesies because if they wear onesies, they get free beer or dollar beers or something. I forget. It says that she had an inability to accept direction. For example, her allegation that Baldoni inappropriately called her sexy was in fact a reference to a scene where everyone was wearing onesies, but Lively was covering her onesie with a big coat. Baldoni, her director, again, pointing him out as the director, asked that she take off the big coat so that her onesie would be visible in the scene. Baldoni said it will be hot, as it was 90 degrees in the small bar with no air conditioning. Lively mischaracterizes this in her complaint as Baldoni referring to her personally as hot, using the slang meaning of the term. Given that Lively herself had earlier expressed to him that she wanted her character's wardrobe to be sexier, Baldoni encouraged her to accept direction by saying, "It's sexy," meaning that without the big coat, the wardrobe was sexier, as Lively had said she wanted it to be. Right. The Junk Farm says, yet another admission. He wants a jury to decide it, but her allegations are not fabricated. Right. To repair a reputation that is not yet tanked. Right. Miku's headphone says, not allowing your coworker to calling you sexy is inability to be erected? Nope. Yes. None of your business. Guy keeps rando tub births in his wallet. I think he actually showed her the video of that, right? Kate Mix says, Lively, desperately attempting the impossible challenge of creating chemistry with Baldoni. Shannon says, by the way, is Blake an A-lister or just married to one? There's a difference. That's a great point. I mean, I would say she's an A-lister. But, you know, what do you say? He also forgets to deny the HR comment. Yep. So there's that. Lively took it personally. She was unable to take the direction, later alleging his behavior was inappropriate regarding her self-chosen wardrobe, stating, "That's not what I'm going for." And then they say this is documented on camera while filming. Baldoni, recognizing that she may have taken his direction personally and appeared offended, apologized more than once. So again, he's apologizing. But he didn't really mean to apologize, apparently. He just wanted her to get along, I guess. But they have all of it on camera, allegedly. And then they say, well, on the one hand, Lively accuses Baldoni of making comments about her appearance. On the other, she made derogatory comments about Baldoni's appearance, telling him he should undergo a nose job. Something Baldoni has publicly expressed insecurities about and has discussed on an episode of his podcast, Man Enough, exploring the topic of body dysmorphia. Lively's comment about Baldoni's nose is also captured on camera. Baldoni, rather than write down a list of grievances against Lively, brushed it off and moved on with the scene. He brushed it off, moved on with the scene. But again, then they're pointing out that he's very sensitive about his nose. I haven't even noticed his nose until they just brought it up in this filing. Now I'm going to go look at his nose. I don't know. Yeah, that's true. Munchell, she has designers make her one-of-a-kind dresses, and literally, as Gossip Girl was on the air, she was flown everywhere by designers, so she's considered A-lister, right? And also, she's been consistently invited to the Met Ball every single year. I mean, since that, right? Since she was on Gossip Girl. So there's that. Yeah, and he's got to plug his own podcast, says Miku. Sclerosis. No one listens to your podcast, dude. You should go listen to it because I linked it and you should, because it may give you a little more insight into his psyche. Robin Rose says Blake is definitely an A-lister. Her name was the draw, only recognizable name for the film. Right. So apparently he's very sensitive about his nose, which I haven't noticed until I'm going to go look at it now. Okay. And again, his feelings are hurt. His feelings are hurt. His feelings are hurt. Come back and read this later if you so desire. He goes on to say they were often delirious with exhaustion. Baldoni filmed her uncontrollably laughing with him as they rehearsed late into the evening. Point 5, goes to point 5. No discussion of personal experiences with sex or nudity, including as it relates to conduct with spouses or others. That was one of the conditions that he had to agree to. Wayfarer had no choice but to sign the document and did so, knowing no such instances had occurred. For example, in response to a proposal from the intimacy coordinator that Baldoni's character Ryle not O after he satisfied Lily, Lively remarked, I'd be mortified if that happened to me, personalizing the character's sexual act. Baldoni, following Lively's lead in what he understood to be an attempt to connect with and develop their characters, remarked that those have been some of the most beautiful moments between himself and his wife. Then they moved on. In another instance, as Lively and Baldoni were developing their scenes, Lively said, I don't want it to look like Corn, and then offered up that she had never seen Corn in her life, a very personal fact. Baldoni complimented her and said, that's wonderful, because unfortunately, he was first to expose. Okay, hold on. I got to stop because I need a drink. I need to have a sip before I read this to you. Hang on. TMI. He claims he said to Blake, that's wonderful that you've never seen Corn, because unfortunately, he was first exposed to it when he was 10 years old and struggled with a corn addiction for a period of his life. He writes openly about it in both his books, Boys Will Be Home, written for young boys, and Man Enough, written for men, addressing pornography as a societal problem. Again, naming his podcast, naming both his books, naming his open corn addiction. Anyone who knows or has done any research on Baldoni would have knowledge of this, and it can in no way be characterized as inappropriate, especially after opening the door to the discussion by disclosing something highly personal. At every turn, Baldoni was entrapped. I mean, should she have researched him and read his books and know all these things about him? Right, another admission. And then also blabs this to his crew to embarrass her later. Yeah, so look, there's always at least 3 sides to every story. Ashley says, you guys are all taking this totally wrong. I don't think it's all of us. I think it's probably half. I think you're pointing half. She's an entitled brat that is just used to getting her way. She started this. He's just defending himself now. Maybe he started it by having his people conduct a smear campaign against her. We don't know the truth. We weren't there. New meaning to corn dog. None, yeah. Show business. Kate says, isn't corn addiction code for I got cheating on my wife? Nerdy Dog Mom says, from all that I've heard, Baldoni is actually just a genuinely nice person. Some people are good people. Could be. I don't know. I have no stake in this whatsoever. I mean, as you can see, clearly 2 sides to every story, at least. And then it goes on to talk about Heath showing Lively a video of his wife giving birth. And you can read about that a little bit. And they're defending that. No one to enter Lively's trailer while she was undressed. The suggestion that this ever happened is illogical and categorically false. No one would or did enter Lively's trailer without knocking first and asking permission. More than once, Blake asked everybody to come in while she was breastfeeding and pumping because, you know, she's multitasking. She regularly breastfed in front of him when they had meetings. But it says here that she was always covered. But then it says Heath was invited into her trailer for a meeting at her request while she was having makeup removed from her collarbone because she was not able to meet at another time. Her nanny, makeup artist, and assistant were present, and Lively was not topless, as she claims elsewhere, but was fully covered while either nursing or pumping breast milk. In this instance, he was instructed to turn away while they spoke and respectfully did so while they figured out a time to meet. So again, there's an admission, but a denial. So it happened, but it doesn't happen the way she says it happened. Lively later mentioned that he did make eye contact at one point, and it made her uncomfortable, to which he responded, "I'm so sorry, I really didn't realize." Lively responded, "I know you weren't trying to cop a look," and they moved on. Well, is that filmed? Lively suggesting that not one but two professional and conscientious men barged into her trailer several times or attempted. So both of these men are professional and conscientious. Barged into her trailer several times or attempted to enter or pressured her to allow them to enter not only offends their long established integrity, but the sanctity of their vows to their wives and their dedication to their children and families. Pump it up. Pumping themselves up. All right, let's move to it's kind of like they admit a lot of these things, but they just spin them in a different way. Let's find the pictures of them in the basement because that's kind of interesting. Except for my big red arrows, what I put here, which I put here for a reason, and I just have to remember what the reason was. This all hands meeting before production resumes. Wayfair's good faith belief that this was a meeting that was they were all going to get back to work. Lively, with the support of her husband, used this demand to justify an ambush of Baldoni and Heath on the eve of the first day of filming in phase 2 of the production. So they're saying she was holding us hostage. We only signed it because they forced us to sign it. None of it is true. But as their own admissions, some of it was true. It happened, but not in the way they said. So there's that. Hang on. Let's go to the photos of them in the basement because this is another thing that really hurt his feelings. Let's walk amongst yourselves for a second. Let's go to the chat. She stole the premiere. She stole the movie. They took her cut. And he's upset about it. And maybe he has a right to be. All right. Here's where they talk about like the premiere. Okay. Just days before the film's premiere, Baldoni was still unsure if he would be allowed to attend. His friends and family, most traveling from outside New York, were left in limbo, unable to finalize travel plans or book flights. Baldoni did the best he could to hide his pain. Despite still not having seen the final cut of the movie he co-starred, financed, and directed, he wanted to celebrate the culmination of his years of work with his family and friends. He's texting someone on August 5th of 2024. Long story, but we won't be in the same room. I was asked to not even come to the premiere. I can figure it out. Well, if you decide to change your mind last minute, let me know and let's figure it out together. I'm going to be there. It's just that there's different timing and holding areas and theaters, and it's all the things you can imagine. It's still our film. Editor number 2 says it would be very hard for me to just sit and watch the final film for the first time at the premiere. Just cheer for us when our names come up, sending all our love. And he says, okay, yeah, I haven't seen it either. So apparently he never saw the final cut of the film. The final cut that Sony chose was Blake and Ryan's cut, not his cut. Finally, through Sony, Wayfarer persuaded Lively to permit Baldoni and the Wayfarer team, along with their friends and family, to attend, though only under demeaning and humiliating conditions. They were relegated to a separate theater to view the film, required to arrive at a different time than the rest of the cast, and instructed to leave the red carpet immediately once Lively arrived. Baldoni was also excluded from the official celebrity after party, despite it being an event ultimately paid for by Sony and Wayfarer. As a result, thank you, Nerdy Dogmon, who is thanking the chat for the respectful conversation. Thank you for your super chat. Again, Sony's actions and decisions, right? Thank you, Lindsay, for pointing that out. Okay. As a result, Baldoni had to quickly organize and fund a separate after party for himself and the Wayfarer team, forcing the company to cover the cost for 2 events, one for Lively and everyone else, one for Baldoni and Wayfarer's own friends, family, crew, and team. Upon arrival, Baldoni began participating in red carpet photos and interviews, absent the presence of the remainder of the cast. However, his time on the red carpet was abruptly cut short when it was conveyed that Lively was on her way, and he was instructed to stop immediately. He and his family were quickly ushered away. Security personnel, acting as though there was a risk of escape, escorted Baldoni's group to the basement of the building. There, they were confined to a makeshift holding area surrounded by concession stand stock with only fold-out tables and chairs arranged in a square. Surrounded by close friends, family, and soda bottles, and a lot of love, the irony of being held in a basement on what was arguably one of the most important nights of Baldoni's career thus far was not lost on anyone. Here they are in the makeshift basement, folding chairs with popcorn. They look like they're having a good time. Some pipe and drape. Okay, so take note of this. Here's some pipe and drape right in the back. And behind that, you see some cases of bottled waters and such. And also, in the next photo, you see they go back there and they pose for this picture on top of the cases of Dasani water, which must have been a sponsor. Kate says that was a consequence for his bad behavior. So there's that. Yep. We all have to admit, Law Junkie says, Justin is a sensitive man who may be way over the top sensitive. Also true, Blake is a bossy woman who may be too bossy. Conflict. Move on. Right? Junk Farm says, nobody makes them agree not to harass without asking around the set. Sony pulled him for a reason. Right. Exactly. Why stand for it? Couldn't he have talked to Sony? Exactly. I don't know. I wasn't there. But again, he says the Wayfarer after party held separately from the celebrity events attended by crew, family, and other Wayfarer friends was a dry gathering, in part to acknowledge the known negative relationship between alcohol and domestic violence. Talks about her marketing plan. And she had alcohol at her after party, and he thinks that was in very, very, very poor taste. The author also took Blake's side, right? Let's take a look at what the actual causes of action are, because they don't even come into this complaint until something like, the very last page. Here he says, upon information and belief. Oh, here's his why. Here's his why for this. Here's the why. This is what he wants the world to know. Paragraph 171. In the end, empowered by her celebrity firepower and her powerful allies, Lively did exactly what she set out to do. She took someone else's movie for her own, destroying years of creative vision and careful planning in service of her own brand-building campaign. But why would Lively even seek to seize power over the film? Why would she insist on taking additional work for no additional pay or credit? On information and belief, Lively may have been motivated by a number of factors. She may have wanted to seize control over the film so that she could take over the production of the sequel, It Starts With Us. This motivation also explains why the cast, who may have been hoped and or promised a role in subsequent productions, would choose to side with the powerful couple who themselves may genuinely believe they could destroy Baldoni and Wayfarer and force them to cede or even sell the rights to the sequel. It Starts With Us. I didn't read that. Anybody read that? Are the same characters in that book? Is that the story of Lily's parents? Or is it the sequel as in what happens after? Yep, all speculation. Or Lively may have felt driven to match her star husband, Ryan Reynolds, who is widely reported to have insisted on taking so much control over the film Deadpool 2 that the director, Tim Miller, left the production. Seeing the fame and success that Reynolds commanded, she may have adopted his oft-repeated pattern wholesale to seize her own power and control. I don't know, that Deadpool movie, well, the last one that premiered at the time this one did about Wolverine and Deadpool made like over $1 billion. So let's see what here they're talking about florals and wardrobe and how her Instagram posts were so insensitive because she posted about her wardrobe. And, there's that insensitive posting. Are we ever going to get to the meat of this? What they're actually suing for? Yeah, I think we do. Like at around page 170. Hang on. Dun, dun, dun. Here's how they conclude. At bottom, this case is a simple one. Lively used her power to steal a movie from its director and production studio. Then she held them hostage to her incessant demands by extortionate threats to destroy what they had left. All the while, she failed to understand the heart and soul of the movie she stole and the book it was based on, let alone the intensely personal impact the book had on millions worldwide. When her thoughtless promotions fell flat because they focused on flowery glamour and cross-merchandising opportunities for her own brands, rather than on centering the voices of survivors, she finally got a taste of accountability, and she did not care for it. She made one final demand to plaintiffs that they finally and forever fall on the sword for her by apologizing for things they had not done, killing their future prospects in the process. When they refused, defendants' gloves came off, and they used their power and resources to try to take down plaintiffs for good by coordinating with Jones and Sloan, master practitioners of the dark arts of public relations, the dark arts, in an intricately planned character assassination plot. They nearly pulled it off, too. It says, defendants have cost plaintiffs their film, their reputations, their future prospects, even their talent agency. It's time to rebalance the scales. It is time to rebalance the scales, my friends. That's what this lawsuit's all about. And they're telling you that right there. Here's what they're suing for. Civil extortion against Lively, Reynolds, Sloan, and Vision. Defendants made threats to plaintiffs that they knew to be wrongful, including threats to breach contracts, defame plaintiffs, and injure. Lively has contended that California law applies to any dispute involving plaintiffs of the film, without conceding that Lively's statutory claims are properly brought. With reservation of all rights and remedies, plaintiffs assert their claims under the substantive laws of the state of California, but they're bringing it in federal court in New York. Defendants' threats included demands that money, property, services, or other sources of value be conferred upon defendants without consideration or contractual entitlement thereto. Plaintiffs complied with the wrongful demands. Plaintiffs were harmed. There was a substantial factor between the wrongful threats and demands in causing the harm. and that they all planned in a conspiracy to extort the plaintiffs, and that they engaged in the above alleged conduct with oppression, fraud, and malice. They want punitive and exemplary damages. Second cause of action, defamation against Lively, Reynolds, Sloan, and Vision. Defendants made one or more statements to persons other than the plaintiffs, including without limitation to the New York Times, to the effect that plaintiffs engaged in, permitted, and or failed to prevent sexually inappropriate conduct toward Lively and others, and that the plaintiffs retaliated against Lively and others for reporting the alleged sexual misconduct, including by propagating false and misleading narratives about Lively for the purpose of damaging her image and reputation. So all of these plaintiffs, including Abel, Nathan, Wayfarer, Heath, Baldoni, did I forget any? Are all suing for defamation, all the defendants. And they're saying that these statements were intended to and did have the effect of exposing plaintiffs to hatred, contempt, ridicule, obloquy. Okay, when's the last time have you ever heard that word? OBLOQUY. Obloquy means, because I had to look it up, I'm not going to lie, disgrace, especially that brought about by public abuse. Try and work that into your daily conversation. Obloquy. OBLOQUY. Word of the day. So there's defamation, causing them harm to their reputation, business, trade, profession, occupation. Third cause of action, false light invasion of privacy by Baldoni, Heath, Nathan, and Abel against Lively, Reynolds, Sloan, and Vision, that they defendants publicly disclosed information or material regarding their professional decisions, which showed Baldoni, Heath, Nathan, and Abel in a false light. The false light created by the disclosure of defendants would be highly offensive and objectionable to a reasonable person, in that it made them the objects of scorn, pity, ridicule, humiliation, and other suffering. That they knew the public disclosure of these things would create a false impression about them. They acted with reckless disregard for the truth, and as a direct result, all of the plaintiffs were harmed by the defendant's actions. And then the fourth cause of action is only against Lively for breach of implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing with regard to her contract to perform as an actor, and it ends with us. That's a contractual claim. And then the fifth, sixth, and seventh causes of action have to do with allegations that Blake and Ryan forced William Morris Endeavor to drop Baldoni as a client. It says specifically upon information and belief, Lively and Reynolds made threats and or demands to induce WME to cease performing under its contract with the plaintiffs. Doesn't say which plaintiffs were represented by WME. I don't think Melisa and Jen were. I would imagine that can be disproven by witnesses from WME. Sixth cause of action, intentional interference with prospective economic advantage, also against Reynolds and Lively. Plaintiffs and WME were in an economic relationship that probably would have resulted in an economic benefit to plaintiffs. Lively and Reynolds engaged in a wrongful conduct by making threats and or demands that WME terminate its economic relationship with the plaintiffs. It was a substantial factor, and they caused harm. Seventh cause of action, negligent interference with prospective economic advantage, also for the same cause of action, alleging that Reynolds and Lively negligently interfered with their contract with WME and forced WME to drop them. Wherefore, here's what we want. A money judgment representing compensatory damages, including consequential damages, lost wages, earnings, and all other sums of money, together with interest on those amounts in an amount to be proven at trial, but in no event less than $400 million. $400 million. plus money for mental pain and anguish, severe emotional distress, pre and post judgment interest, punitive damages, attorney's fees and costs, and for whatever else the court deems just and proper. We would like a jury. Thank you so much. XOXO. Mitchell Schuster, who's their New York attorney at Meister, Seelig and Fine. Then Brian Freedman and his firm, Liner Freedman, Titleman and Cooley, coming in pro hoc vice, and it says pro hoc vice application forthcoming. So they didn't even file it yet. Yes, Megyn Kelly has also used the same attorney for previous mishaps, and she's good friends with Brian Freedman. I think she's on the first podcast of hers that I watched. So there's that. All right. Well, we'll see if this lawsuit's going to be successful. We'll see who can prove what. We'll see if it gets settled. I think it should just be settled behind closed doors and everyone can just walk away. Just walk away. That's what I think. Currently, no name says it's strange that the interview was done 8 years ago. Right. You mean the one with Flaw? But only got released one day before the movie came out after Justin's PR team said they would bury her. I find that interesting as well. Michael says, this lawsuit reads like a PR person got with an attorney, just like Baldoni has done before to smear and or paint a negative picture of Lively. Who did what to who? Whose feelings were more hurt? This is at least the 5th filing. There's 4 lawsuits pending. Just to recap, in case you're keeping score. There was one complaint, not a lawsuit, that Blake filed with the California Civil Rights Division, which alleges sexual harassment, hostile work environment, and other things that happened on the set of It Ends With Us. We went over that in our first show. Second show was a lawsuit filed by Stephanie Jones against Abel, Nathan, and Baldoni. That was filed in Supreme New York, in New York State Court. We went over that lawsuit. The third lawsuit was Justin Baldoni versus the New York Times, which is a $250 million lawsuit, was filed on New Year's Eve. And that was in LA Superior Court, so state court in California. The next case was Lively versus Baldoni, which essentially mirrors her complaint with this California Civil Rights Department. That was filed in the federal court in New York. And then this lawsuit, which was filed by Baldoni against Blake in federal court in New York. So there's that. Did I hear Melanie say the New York Times was a reliable source? Well, it's more reliable than, say, I don't know, the Daily Mail, although I find the Daily Mail to be oftentimes right. But if you're gonna put a vomit emoji in a sentence with my name in it, at least spell my name right. It's Melanie. Thanks, Anna, for chiming in. Appreciate you. More reliable than Jen Abel, says the Junk Farm. Currently no name says TMZ called out Justin's lawyer in an interview and admitted Justin's team had given them stories to push. The lawyer went silent. See? 5 sides to every story. They weren't right about Karen Reed. Right. Yeah, exactly. Yours, Matthew. Wow. If more people were involved, this passionate about Sandra Birchmore and her unborn child, Matthew Farwell will be in jail now. Just saying. I agree. It's amazing how divisive this case, isn't it? But at least I thought we should give Justin's side a fair shake. And we read his side of the story, not all of it. It's 179 pages. We read a lot of it, though. We've been here for 3 hours and 15 minutes. So there's that. Nobody ever spells your name right. Oh, sweetie. No, I'm so sorry. Thoughts, questions, comments, concerns? Anyone before we wrap this one? Thank you, Lupus Lady, for buying me a matcha latte and for thanking me for spending my time with you. I thank you so very much. And she knew my coffee order. She knew my tea order. So what does that mean about Lupus Lady? For buying me a matcha latte. Thank you so very much. What's going on right now? Would you like to teleport anywhere? Would you guys like to go watch someone else who's live right now? The ones accusing of bias are the ones actually showing it, in my opinion, says Harmony. Thank you. Nanya says, I'm Team Blake. Curious Wendy says, I don't believe him. Nanya says, I think this chat is leaning more towards Justin. Let them says 3 sides, his, hers, and the truth. I mean, should this be played out in the court of public opinion? Because isn't that exactly what the original accusations were? That his team put a smear campaign out against Blake? I don't know. Deanna's team Blake. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for the moderators for being here today, because this is such a divisive story. People get very upset about it. This goes to court. It'll be interesting to see a timeline of the text. It will. Thank you, moderators, for being here today, for keeping it so classy. And you guys are really, 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 really awesome. Please smash the like button on your way out, because it helps the algorithm. And, there's a lot of people who want to hear about this case, and a lot of people want to hear his side. That was his side today. We did his side. So there's that. Smash the button. Do all the things that YouTube likes. Share the stream out. Whatever else you feel like doing. Stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. You can do it. I know you can. I know you can do it. Peace, my friends. Peace. I'll see you real soon.